Good afternoon and welcome to the July 18th, 2022 meeting of the Charlotte County Punta Gorda Metropolitan Planning Organization. We will start with a roll call.
Good afternoon. Commissioner Stephen R. Deutsch.
Here.
Commissioner James Hurston.
Present.
Commissioner Christopher Constance.
Here.
Mayor Lynn Matthews.
Present.
Commissioner Joseph Tiseo.
Here.
FDOT Secretary L.K. Nandam.
Here.
Very good. We will now move to item 2, which is the invocation. If you want to participate, please rise. Pastor Jim Chandler from the Englewood Christian Church will lead us in an invocation.
Let's pray. Father, we come to you today and we just thank you. You are so good to us. Even as we look around and we see many challenges in life, you give us reason for joy by giving us life, by allowing us to live in a place where we have so much freedom and this wonderful community that you've given us. We pray that you'll be with these meetings today, Father, and just allow your wisdom to prevail and just guide the men and women who give of their talents and their time to serve this community. Be with them in their efforts, bless them, and give them success. And to you we give the glory, and it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll move to item 4, which is any additions or deletions or changes to the agenda.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, MPO Board. We did get a comment that came in past the deadline during the last MPO Board meeting from Marshala D. Antuano. She had a comment on Burmont Road 31 and 74. We want to make sure we get that added as part of the record for this agenda. And then we also have a walk-on item from FDOT, Traffic Systems Management and Operations Unit. They're going to present on item number 11. They've got a presentation that they're walking on that has not been posted. We will get that posted after the meeting.
Move changes.
We have a motion second to move the changes. Any discussion? Hearing none, is there any opposition to that motion? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. All right, that moves us to public comments on agenda items. Anybody from the public wishing to speak at this time, please step forward. State your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes. Please address this body and not individual commissioners or council people.
Commissioners, Mr. Secretary, thank you. I am Richard Russell, Port Charlotte, Florida, and I'm going to have a few comments regarding transportation. I'll try and be brief. Accommodating pedestrians to protect from construction blockage. Sunseeker has got a good example of what they're doing down there, and that's a sidewalk block off so people don't run over by cars. We have an issue at the beach complex, same thing, but there's no protection for the pedestrians walking to the beach complex. And I guarantee you there are more people that walk to that beach complex than walk by the Sunseeker every day. And it's just as dangerous. Something needs to be done. Accommodate pedestrians. Okay, Melbourne and 41. I've been beating this horse for a long time. And Mr. Secretary, you got back to me with a quarter of a mile. I knew that was the distance. I just wanted to hear it officially. That's on highways I know that you're building that are probably like 55, 60 mile an hour speed limits. 41 right now is 45 miles an hour. And the stretch between the bridge and where Sunseeker's main entrance is going to be, I suggest lowering that speed to something that's more compatible with all the congestion that's going to be there. I mean, you don't go through downtown Punta Gorda at 45 miles an hour. It's either 35 or 30. And the intersection of Melbourne, maybe you don't need to condemn the whole chevron. Condemn just a piece of it so you can tee up and create a T intersection there and put a traffic light there. For the long term, that's going to be needed. Either do it now or do it later after fatalities and issues rise that are worse. Flamingo on 776. I know you've got plans for that, and I think be short-sighted if you don't do a flyover for people coming up Flamingo and going west on 776. I mean, it makes it just a natural flow rather than getting traffic backed up at a traffic light, because there will be a lot of backups there, and there will be a lot of impatient people, and they'll try and pull out when the light's turning yellow and really red, and somebody's going to come flying through there, and they're going to get T-boned. Vermont Road, I made the comment last time or 2 times ago.
You have 1 minute. She didn't start the clock. I'm timing.
Oh, okay.
You have 1 minute.
I think I have 3 minutes.
Well, you have 1 minute left.
Vermont Road, I made the comment. Between Florida City and Key Largo, the way they solved that problem is they put a barricade up that's about 4 feet high to keep trucks from head-on collision, and they also gave them a 3-mile stretch of turn lanes periodically, okay? And that's how they solved that problem. I don't think they have any near what they used to have. I used to have head-on collisions there like Alligator Alley did in the past. So, I mean, these are things that need to be done, need to be considered, need to find a solution. I'm just begging you for the safety of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Do you have, I think there's the switch, do you have it turned on? Okay. 3 minutes with a 30-second, okay. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Roger Lanning. And I, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to address you. My concern is the Jones Loop, number 13, I think, on the agenda, the widening of Jones Loop Road, North Jones Loop. That's something far more than what I had expected. I'd been working on a traffic light at Piper and Jones Loop for several years. We got through COVID, et cetera, but then I understand it was in the process, and Mr. Hurston helped me out with some information on it. When I saw what was coming, I thought, wow, okay, that's a lot more than I was looking for. However, at Jones Loop Road and Piper Road, it appears that there's an opportunity for 2 different scenarios, one being a traffic light, the other being a roundabout, if you will, or a rotary. I don't know at the time this was considered or was developed, if you were aware of the fact that FedEx was putting in a very large depot on Piper Road, therefore a lot of trucks. The trucks, when they do roundabouts, they take the whole roundabout. I'm not so sure that a roundabout is as feasible as it would be if it was just car traffic. Everyone that I've spoken to in that area seems to be in favor of a traffic light, more so because they're fearful of roundabouts. They're not that familiar with them, I'm sure. But with the trucks and everything, it seems that there would be some serious reconsideration as to whether that would be as appropriate as it was initially. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
I'm under 3. See that?
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Okay, we'll move on to item 6, which is the presentation of the Peggy Walters Citizen Mobility Award. Mr. Harris, you want to take that? Yeah. All right. I'm going to come down to present this award. It's a bit sad because it's a posthumous award, and the family of Mr. James, as we knew him, Jim Brown, is going to be accepting this award. He passed in January of this year, but he will be receiving this award as the Peggy Walters Citizens Mobility. This is the 13th anniversary of the award presentation, and it recognizes achievement by an individual or group who, through their efforts and accomplishment, has made significant and noteworthy contributions to transportation planning in Charlotte County. And Jim served on the MPO's Citizens Advisory Committee for more than a decade. He was very faithful in his meeting attendance. He served as the Citizens Advisory Committee Chair in 2020 and delivered the report to the MPO meetings during that time. He was a retired controller for Saturn Division of General Motors and a veteran of the U.S. Army. He and his wife, Sue, who's here with us today, moved to Punta Gorda from Nashville, Tennessee in 1997. Jim had an expert understanding of all Charlotte County transportation issues, especially those in South County, the area that he represented on the CAC. His favorite topic was how to address the needed safety improvements to Burnt Store Road and that corridor. And a lot of what we see today and a lot of the efforts that were made to get us where we are today in a very safe manner for all of us that live and travel down that way are directly related to Jim and his efforts. So this couldn't come to a more befitting person, and I'll ask Sue to come up, and I'm going to present her with this award on behalf of the MPO for her husband. Okay. Our next item is item 7, which is the public meeting, public hearing for the FY 2022-23 Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP, Task 8 through 9, 2021 FTA section, which is the Section 5305D, Public Transportation Grant Agreement, PTGA Amendment. Mr. Harris, you going to
Yes, sir.
handle that?
This is a minor update to bring in about $2,000 to the UPWP. And you'll also note that we have listed about $300,000 in 2024. That is the next year's money for the Transit Development Plan. And what we're looking for this is a public hearing and roll call vote to amend the UPWP.
Very good. Do we have any questions for Mr. Harris? Any comments? Hearing none, I will open the public hearing for this item. Anybody wishing to speak to the MPO on this item, please step forward. State your name. You'll have 5 minutes. Anybody wishing to speak to this item? I see no one rising. I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion second to close public hearing. Any discussion? Hearing none. Is there any opposition to that motion? Hearing none. That moves unanimously. I am looking.
Chair.
Yes, sir.
Motion to amend the FY 2022-2023 Unified Planning Work Program, adding the remaining balance from FY 2021-2022 FTA Section 5305, subsection D, Transit and Transportation Disadvantage Planning, PTGA Task 8, Transit and Transportation Disadvantage Planning. The motion allows for transmittal of the amendments to FTA and FDOT and for staff to make minor changes and adjustments based on input received.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Stephen R. Deutsch.
Aye.
Commissioner James Hurston.
Aye.
Commissioner Christopher Constance.
Aye.
Mayor Lynn Matthews.
Aye.
Commissioner Joseph Tiseo.
Aye.
All right, that was unanimous. Thank you, everybody from the board. Appreciate that. We'll move on to item 8. Board Chair's report. I have two things. I got an email from somebody, a citizen, who basically states in their email that they recently became aware that I'm the chair, so they emailed me. With our ever-increasing population and resulting traffic problems, I would like to suggest that you investigate the use of, in quotes, smart traffic signals on US 41 especially. There are many different systems available, and it's a proven technology. Places that use these signals say it's like adding another lane to the road. In this age of high fuel costs, it'd be nice to have fewer vehicles idling at red lights, and this is from Pete Watson. I know that we have our traffic control system, and during the day it's all synchronized. Do we have any other opportunities for improvement of that, short of getting a whole new system?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
so it so happens that I have our traffic operations engineer, Mark Mathis, here, so he can respond to that question. Mark, you want to?
Is that green? Press that button. There you go.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. You know, we could evaluate.
Name for the record, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mark Mathis, District Traffic Ops Engineer.
Very good.
You know, usually an adaptive system, which that's probably what they're referring to, you know, those can be effective in certain circumstances, but it probably isn't as effective in the Charlotte County US 40. And the reason why it is because we are going to do active arterial management. We're going to actively look at those corridors, try to fine tune them. And when you compare that versus an adaptive system, they typically come out a wash, or the human-driven or active arterial management ends up winning out.
Yeah, I don't think I disagree with you, because I know that once we trip to manual in the evenings, if you're not lucky, you're stopping at every light because there's always cross traffic, and so the main artery gets all gummed up. But you know, I don't know that there's a perfect way to fix this unless you have active management at all intersections and you have a computer basically looking at everything. Because I understand, correct me please, that because you're not just looking at 41, but you're looking at Midway and Cochrane and all these other, you've got to make it all integrate. And if you start doing adaptive, it's almost impossible to get that right without a very smart system overlording the whole thing.
You know, typically when they, you know, the adaptive systems, they'll claim that they get 25% or 50%. But when you kind of dive deep in what they're referring to, that's typically a system that hasn't been retimed in 5 years. People aren't looking at it, making adjustments, and that's just not the case here in Charlotte County.
I agree, because we had all that construction to redo 41, and then we've continually tweaked it, and I see Lax coming forward. You want to add something, sir?
My name is Lax Guram with Charlotte MPO. Charlotte County is doing a ATMS study, automated traffic management study. It's still in the preliminary stages. We were supposed to hear an update at this meeting, but there are some delays happening on the consulting side. Hopefully we might hear something at the next meeting. So this is to upgrade the existing system.
Okay.
So we might hear more in the
All
next
right.
meeting.
Well, look, at least you guys are looking at it, and I mean, you're always looking at it, so I appreciate that. I just wanted to bring it forward because I thought it was a bit of a timely issue. And then the other thing was, and I'm going to turn to my fellow commissioner from the airport, Commissioner Hurston. I have a constituent who was wanting to understand the mechanism for how deplaning occurs at the airport during thunder and lightning and rainstorms, when planes can be out there for literally a couple of hours. And what is the plan moving forward to try to actively improve that? Because, you know, obviously if it's lightning and you're inside the terminal, no problem. Nobody gets on a plane yet. You're going to wait. But you know, I heard again from a constituent saying, you know, my family was stuck on that plane for 2 hours, and, you know, how can that be? I thought, you know, that is against FAA rules. And I said, well, it may be, but if there's lightning going on, they're not letting people off that plane. That's just the way it is. But what are the long-term plans at the airport as far as, I just want to get this on the record, as far as jetways and a new terminal? Are we ever going to get there, or is this kind of where we are?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have received no complaints about people sitting, you know, for hours on the plane. You know, we are expanding our gates. I think we're going up to, 11 or 12 gates. So we're expanding our terminal. The walkways are a very expensive item. Right. I mean, you're talking millions of dollars. But I don't think that's out of the question. You know, in the future, I think our current capital improvement plan, you know, goes out 4 or 5 years. We're spending approximately $80 million, and you know, that's discussed every now and then. I did hear a comment, though. Come to think of it, from a pilot, an Allegiant pilot, on the issue, and But, there's nothing concrete at this point with the walkways.
Yeah. I will say, I was, when I moved here almost 30 years ago, there was my original Regional Southwest airport, and that was a fine terminal. It was smaller, but it was fine. They had jetways, and then they built the new one, and they completely crushed the old one. And I thought that was insane, that the building is just a big, foundation right now out there on the tarmac. I agree, they're very, very expensive, but I guess the hope is as we grow, we looked at the census numbers. We are the size of Sarasota County in 1980. We're probably the size of Lee County in 1975 or whatever. So, I mean, we're still in our infancy, but I guess the hope is that will be coming. I also explained to this person, it just doesn't happen every day. That was a fluke issue, and it was all about public safety. But I wanted to make sure that I asked you since we had this opportunity.
Sure. I wish I had better news, but it's where we're at right now, and I'm not sure if those walkways qualify as part of the passenger facility charges. But I will certainly check into that, but wish I had better news.
No problem.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the answer.
You're welcome.
All right. And with that, we will move on to, if there's no other comments, we'll move on to our next item, which is Citizens Advisory Committee Chair's Report. And I see Mr. Counsel.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just on that last item, real quick, I'm sorry. I think they call them like covered gangways or where, if it is raining and someone gets off the plane, they're covered into the terminal. And I think right now they just disembark on the tarmac. Is that right?
Are you asking me,
Yeah,
is the name correct?
Yeah, and I think that's what you're referring to, a covered facility.
No, there's a difference between a jetway, which you can utilize during a lightning storm, and a gantry. I mean, a covered gantry is great for rain, but if there's lightning, I don't think they let people get off the plane.
Okay, because
That's the issue.
I thought those can be grounded. So if they're grounded,
I mean, I know for a fact I was at RSW, got off the plane in a pretty decent storm. We got off the plane, and our bags stayed on the plane for another hour and a half because they wouldn't let the luggage handlers, because somebody had gotten badly hurt a few weeks prior. So that was it. They said no more. Obviously, we don't want to risk anybody's life, so we had to wait. But
yeah, I didn't hear any complaints about lightning. I have heard over the years about the rain. And some delays. And you can set your clock to the afternoon rainstorms now, and this is the time of year you get a bunch of planes landing and you get those torrential downpours, and it's hit or miss, I guess, on those. But thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Counsel.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I flew back Father's Day, Sunday evening, about 9 o'clock out of Akron Airport, CAK, and it is a 2-story airport, so the walkways, fit well. And what happened was we were all loaded in the plane, and the operator of the walkway, instead of backing it up away from the plane, he lifted it up and he bent the door. Of the plane.
Oh, great.
And so here it is, Sunday night, 11 o'clock, Father's night, Father's Day, and we had to evacuate the plane. And we sat there in the airport that was closed for like 4 or 5 hours. And they finally got a repair crew out there and fixed it, we think.
Well, you're here to talk about it, so.
Yeah, so.
Wow.
But anyways, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Counsel, thank you for coming.
Good afternoon. The minutes of our last CAC meeting on July the 6th are included in your package. Couple of comments. Our committee's been operating at some time down to 2 spots. We're very happy at this point to understand that both of those spots are going to be filled pending approval later on by your board. We are happy to welcome Richard Kerfoff, who's going to be West County's rep, and also Dr. Mary Ellen Kiss, who will represent the south part of the county, and she is with us this morning, or this afternoon. Going on, we're happy to see that Punta Gorda is preparing to partner with the MPO on the SSF4A program, Save Streets for All. We see it as good exposure for the city. and welcome all of the efforts on their part. Different point, at many of our, or at least several of our meetings, a point has been raised that there's a need for law enforcement, a member of the Sheriff's Department, to be there to respond to questions, observations, et cetera, that come up with some of our members. We understand full well, and Dewan has stressed a point. He's met personally with the sheriff, and the sheriff understands the possible need for that sort of input. He has staffing considerations, pressures right now that we understand. I think that an accelerated approach, really, and we've stressed that, and we'll continue to stress it to our members, that they identify in advance what they anticipate to be issues that they need some input from law enforcement as to why this, why that, whether it's traffic flow, etc. Bring those to the MPO staff prior to our meetings, and that's going to hopefully solve some of those issues. We're very interested in looking at the final update of the Jones Loop Road feasibility study. It was well received, and as was pointed out by one of the earlier public comments, there were, at least with one member, and some agreement in general among others, questioning the roundabout on the Piper Road Jones Loop intersection. Again, it was pointed out by staff and Dewan that, as well as DOT, that this is strictly a feasibility study at this point. And the next step is to move into a design stage, and that's going to elicit public comment in a variety of venues and so forth. So I think it's premature to lock into any great debate on that particular issue, roundabout versus traffic light, at this point until we go into the next step. Again, well received, the corridor planning study for Veterans Boulevard. A lot of discussion on the advisability and safety impact of right-hand turn lanes. A couple of the members who are commuting daily on that route and so forth had very valuable input on that, and the engineers in charge of that study welcomed those, and we'll take them into consideration. And finally, again, I comment on the interest in the SS4A support, PG support, partnering with the MPO. But again, Dewan pointed out that broad program looking forward in terms of possible grants, and that did excite our committee in terms of what some of the possible advantages and applications to local projects can be under that. So we look forward to having Dewan flesh that out in greater detail as we move forward. And then finally, we did have a Cecil B. DeMille opportunity at our meeting. Betty Ann Shearer, together with staff, presented a video animation of the MPO, its roles and responsibilities. I don't know whether the board's had a chance to see that. For a first start, it was very intriguing, well done, and we appreciate it. Just as another final comment, again, Jim and I had the opportunity to serve together for 10, 12 years in another organization, the South Charlotte County Coalition, which Chairman Constance is well aware of. This was a conglomerate of both PG home owners associations in the southern part of Punta Gorda, as well as several organizations in the county going south. I'm very happy to see, and by the way, that association died a natural death with COVID and so forth. It was never exhumed, never came back to life. So we're very happy to see two of the commissioners up here. May not be totally apropos to this committee, but joined together to really looking seriously at where we're going on that thoroughfare. Okay, and thank you for that. If any questions, thank you for your attention.
If there are no questions, thank you so much for your report. Appreciate that. Next up, we're going to have our Technical Advisory Committee report. Mr. Austin, how are you?
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Mitchell Austin, City of Punta Gorda Urban Design, Chair of the Technical Advisory Committee. As indicated in your agenda packages, we had a productive series of discussions about all the items on the Technical Advisory Committee meeting. As was just expressed by the Chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee, we definitely think that Jim Brown's award of the Peggy Walters Award was very appropriate. He did a lot of good work on behalf of transportation planning in Charlotte County. Additionally, we are excited to learn more about the Safe Routes for All grant funding opportunity and how that partnership can work moving forward to make our streets safer here in Charlotte County. If you have any questions or concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer those at this time.
Any questions for Mr. Austin? All right, thank you for your report. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to item D, which is the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Is there representation from that committee? I don't see the vice chair. So members, we'll just, we've had a chance to review that report. If you have any questions for staff, otherwise we'll just take it as informational and move forward. Item number 9, local government reports, and we will start with our Charlotte County Airport. Commissioner Hurston.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've included in our package, and you should have a package in front of you, my standard report. You notice on the second page of the report, I do give you a table of contents to follow. The numbers on the right-hand side I included in the bottom of each sheet, bottom right-hand corner. Sheets 1 and 2 was our latest meeting of June 23rd. I've also included on sheet 3 our income statement. All the way over on the left-hand columns, we have our April actual versus budget numbers. We had a very nice increase for the month. Sheet 4 is our net position, our balance sheet. You can see we're currently sitting on approximately $50 million in cash. Sheet 5, we do collect a lot of rents from our T-hangars. And you can see there's our 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90 days, and our collections are very well. Page 6, I did have an opportunity to copy that as 11 by 17. You can see we have, these are passenger facility charges, and we started out with our PFC1. We amended PFC1. We're now collecting on PFC2. And our PFC3 is not going to be collected, I think, until, well, we started June 1st. Well, 2023 we start on our PFC3. So that's the charge that we collect per passenger enplanement. And Allegiant collects that money, and then they pay us on a monthly basis. Sheet 7 shows our historic passenger count, and if you go all the way over to the left, you can see once we got past February, we've been up in record territory. Our passenger count, I think, for May, I guess, was pretty close to 140,000. And we're almost at 1 million already for the year. Sheet 8 is the two columns all the way on the left are avgas. We actually sell by the truck, and we have a self-service facility, and all those indicators are, the gas sales are up. And over on the right, we have Jet A fuel and also airline gallons. And for the month, all those indicators were up. Sheet 9 is our operations reported by the tower at the top, and you can see there we had approximately 7,100 total operations with air carrier, air taxi, general aviation, and military for the month. And then at the bottom of 9 is the 53 cities that we serve direct. Sheet 10 is just more of basically the ops, looking at it on a historic basis. Of course, the lower right-hand corner is our pie chart, which kind of breaks apart the distribution for the month of May. And we'll stay on sheet 10, if we could, for our project summaries of what we going on at the airport. You can see we have 5 different categories in blue. In development, we got some RFPs out. We got planning studies and reports, design and construction projects. In development, of course, we're trying to improve Golf Course Challenger Boulevard. Our RFPs, we've got a new taxiway G request for qualifications. Planning studies, we're looking at our terminal planning study, which is possibly where the walkways may come in. And we're looking at the rental car terminal area planning studies. Going down into design, that CIP number 122, we are replacing all the terminal seating, which is welcomed. On CIP number 120, we are designing a new maintenance and operations facility for our operations. We're currently in an old building, and so that's welcomed. We have a self-serve facility in design, a new building 607, which are 9 50-foot by 50-foot box hangars. 113 is the inline baggage system that's being improved, and we have, of course, our new FBO hangar. And you can see the projects under construction. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 projects we have under construction, with the bottom 2, 104 basically being our new general aviation center, which we're excited about. We have a phase 1, which is basically the apron taxiway and taxi lanes, with phase 2 being the new terminal itself. But so we won't go through the following pages. I think up to page 29, that'll give you anything you'd like to tell your constituents that what's happening. We provide graphics for you that should help. And then on sheets 30 through 34 is our marketing communications report for June. That report's put together by Kaylee Miller, who does a great job, and there's everything you want to know there about our newsletter, Facebook, Twitter. I think the big buzz lately was we had a military honor flight to Washington, which was a big hit, and it was very touching for a lot of people. But that's it, Commissioner, and I know I did give Commissioner Paseo our charge rate study document, I think, that goes into effect in June, and I hope that answered all your questions related to that. But that is my report, and I know I didn't put Commissioner Deutsch to sleep, so I did a halfway decent job.
Well, thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Your reports are always technical but full of information, and I think it's the economic engine for this county, so I really appreciate the detail and the organization to these reports. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Commissioner Hurston?
Oh, I do have
Yes, please. Mayor Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a question from a resident last week asking about the air center that's under construction, and I understand it's going to be opening in August. Is that correct?
I knew we were in for final inspections, and I don't know if we made it past Charlotte County or not yet, but that's probably true.
Okay, and is that going to be owned and operated by the airport authority?
Yeah,
or-
yes.
It is, okay,
Yes.
that's all. Thank you.
Yes, definitely.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to the next report, which is City of Punta Gorda. Mayor Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You all have my report. I'll just elaborate on a couple of the items on it. And I apologize, I noticed that the last paragraph is a duplication, and I missed that when I edited this. City Council voted unanimously to approve the plan for the renovation of the City Hall property. The city clerk's office and the finance department have relocated to the Herald Court parking garage for the duration of the renovation project. And we will start our meetings when we come back from summer break on August 24th at the Military Heritage Museum and the Gulf Theater. And that's where we will have all board and committee meetings and council meetings until further notice. When we approved the renovation for the project, there were 3 plans that were presented to the council members a month ago, and we voted to build option 3, which is going to not only provide us what we need for now and 5 years from now, but possibly 20 years from now. So we want to make sure that we are prepared for any future expansion and growth of the city as we grow. So that is something that was a major decision we had to make, and we're going to use several pots of money to make it happen, but it's going to happen. And the wayfinding signage, thank the heavens, the wayfinding signage is finally done. Thank you, FDOT, for all of your support through this, and MPO. It's been a project 6 years in the making, and we're very happy to have it done. And last but not least, I've been contacted, as you were, Commissioner Constance, for the Burnt Store Road Coalition. We'll be having a meeting later this month on the 28th. We're getting together with numerous homeowner association groups along the Burnt Store Road corridor to discuss opportunities for as expansion happens and new development happens, and how we can work with them as government officials. So we'll be meeting with all those folks that day, and it should be a very productive meeting. Thank you. That's all I had.
Wonderful. Thank you for that report. Any questions for the mayor? All right. Commissioner DeSeo, do you have a Charlotte County report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Olean Boulevard, we can probably take that off the list now. It's essentially complete. I think there's some minor punch work, but it's, for all intents and purposes, that's done.
I saw them putting up some last-minute traffic signs and wayfinding and stuff like that, but I think it's pretty much done.
Yeah, some various punch list items, but the forecast completion date was 3 days ago, so we can probably pull that from the list. There's various intersection improvements going on right now. We have 60% design plans for Cochran Boulevard at Veterans Boulevard intersection. There's a consultant preparing 60% plans for Yorkshire at Veterans, and a consultant has been cleared to start the survey on the remaining intersections. We're probably going to talk more about that when we get to item 15, the Veterans Boulevard corridor. We're going to have more details there on, expectations for improvements along that segment. Also, Flamingo and Edgewater widening. The project would replace the existing 2-lane Flamingo Boulevard from 776 to a point north of Edgewater Drive, and the existing remaining section of 2-lane Edgewater Drive from Midway Boulevard to Collingswood Boulevard with a new 4-lane roadway. The project will also connect Flamingo Boulevard from its southernmost curve to the intersection of Edgewater Drive and Collingswood Boulevard, creating a new alignment for the roadways. Additionally, intersection improvements at 776 and Flamingo Boulevard will be included. I know there were some comments earlier from some of the citizens about that intersection at Flamingo. It's been on our radar for quite some time, and obviously it'll be addressed when we do that widening. And I know this board has also talked about maybe accelerating the Flamingo improvements along with FDOT's corridor study for 776 West to see what we can do to jumpstart that, because that intersection will probably need improvements before we can actually get the 4-laning done. So it's definitely on our radar, and we're looking closely at that. Some current work, Johnson Engineering has been selected as the design firm for this project. The county will work with the firm to begin designing all project phases. So that's my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions or comments? All right, we appreciate that. We will move on to item number 10, which is our consent agenda. We have two items: approval of minutes for May 16th of the MPO board meeting, as well as the Citizens Advisory Committee appointments.
Move the consent?
Second.
Motion and second to move the consent agenda. Any discussion? Is there any opposition? Hearing none, that moves unanimously, and we'll move on to item number 11, which is our Transportation System Management and Operations presentation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Mark Mathis, Florida Department of Transportation, Traffic Operations Engineer. Today we're going to talk about a few intersections and the overall operations on US 41. We're going to start with US 41 in Rio Villa. We're going to talk about Olean Boulevard, Harbor View, and some coordination timings and any general questions you may have. So as per the last commission meeting, there was some concerns about the operations at Aqua Esta and at Rio Villa, given that we're going to change that to a directional. So we went back, we had our team take a deep dive, look at the safety and operations, which is tacked onto the end of this presentation. I won't go through everything, but what we found is, it is going to operate safer and more efficiently given these changes. One thing it's going to do is remove that full median opening. What that does is it reduces your conflict points from 11 to 6. It spreads them out, so if you want to come out of Rio Villa and make a left, you're going to have to make a right first and then take the U-turn around and make your left. And that's found, given research, to be safer than having a full median opening. We calculate that that's going to prevent 4.5 fatal or serious injury crashes over the next resurfacing cycle. We don't think it's going to have any major impacts. I know the RV the RV storage facility was brought up, and we found that there's only a little bit of traffic coming out of there, and typically they are going out of there, making a right and making a left. You can see if you zoom down here, there's some off-tracking into the grass. That actually is going to be fixed. They're going to extend the pavement as part of the resurfacing project. And so those vehicles will be able to make that turn safely and without having to go onto the grass. We think this is also going to bring our driveway spacing up per our access management standards. Typically, we saw that as far as Aqua Esta, that you're going to have roughly 2 extra vehicles per cycle. And if you look at the queue, it's not going to be significantly more, and you're not going to be impacted any more than you would be at any other intersection where things queue back beyond a side street. You have to wait for the traffic to clear from the side street, Aqua Esta, and then you're able to make your right turn so you can make your left on the US 41. Also noted as part of the resurfacing project, we are going to fix the northbound left turn. There is spillback issues and concerns. They're going to extend that, and that should take care of that problem as well. Before I move on, is there any questions or comments on this point?
Mr. Chair? The mayor can go first.
No, go ahead.
No, I had a question on the U-turn. Is there adequate stacking approaching that median to make the U-turn? So cars will be able to stack should you have 2 or 3 trying to make a U-turn at once? I was trying to pull it up on GIS to see if they're stacking.
You have 1,000 feet, so and your turn lane isn't quite that long, but you should be able to stack at least a couple, given the length of the deceleration lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Go ahead, Mayor Mathis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to have to agree to disagree on this one forever, because I don't agree with this at all. And until something is done to fix Baynard, we are going to have a problem. I dare say no traffic study or traffic count has been done on Baynard for people coming off of Rio Villa, because you would not be doing what you're doing. It isn't the best solution, and I have to stand behind the people that elected me to sit in this seat, so I have to respectfully disagree with all of this.
Understood.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir, Commissioner DeSalle.
I just had a question for the mayor. So did you want a full signalization there? Is that?
That was my original suggestion, yes.
Okay, so I guess a question for staff. I thought if you have a full cut median, as long as you have 1,600 feet of separation, a signalization would be appropriate. And it looks like there's 630 feet.
My understanding is this intersection isn't even close to meeting the warrants for a signal.
Well, the question was, though, not warrants, does it meet the separation rule of 1,600 feet?
Looks like it does to me.
It does, but this still brings it, given your current access classification, this brings it into line with that standard.
I mean, I would just say that I would support a signalization there because it meets the 1,600-foot separation rule. And to have people shoot across traffic to get to a median cut to make another U-turn, I don't know how that's safer. I mean, but you've done your studies. I just would assume a full signalization there would be a safer way to do it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Secretary.
So Commissioner Teseo, there are multiple criteria for installation of the traffic signals. You're talking about the distance criteria, but then there is the factor that gets into account, which is the number of vehicles that are using the intersection, particularly the left turn traffic that's turning from Rio Villa onto US 41. And the data that's shown that we collected during the peak season, which is that eastbound left turn volume that's turning onto US 41, the highest traffic number is about 35 vehicles per hour. The minimum requirement for a traffic signal is for any roadway which is at 45 or more, you got to be at 105 vehicles at minimum per hour for 8 hours. This location is never going to meet the warrants because we know it's all built in that area. And because we've seen a crash pattern of vehicles trying to make a left turn and getting into those T-bone crashes, and we're trying to be proactive and address that particular safe situation because obviously there are a couple of alternatives for folks who are trying to make a left turn, either make a right, make a U-turn, or even if all those folks that are making a left turn go up Baynard and turn right and turn onto US 41 using Akiesta, there's enough capacity, enough storage based on our analysis to accommodate that. I think we are pretty comfortable based on all the review that we have done that this particular improvement is warranted and will not cause other issues because of the amount of traffic that's currently making an eastbound left turn. Now, whenever we make median changes, Mayor, residents get concerned. We hear every time we make a change to the median, but once the project is done, people adjust and they actually like it. So it's kind of like flipping the story, right? Once it's done. So please be patient with us, have confidence in us. I know you are concerned about your residents and your constituents, what they're bringing to you, but we've gone through all kinds of evaluations.
So the 35 trips making that left turn lane will be, those same trips now are probably going to go to Rio Villa or up the street there and make the left at the light at the Akiesta. Is that right? They're being redirected?
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
Possibly so, Commissioner, but there's couple of options, right? So some may choose to make a right turn, go make a U-turn, or some may choose to go up Baynard. We analyzed, I think, Mark, you guys, we did the analysis with all the traffic going on Baynard and using Akiesta traffic signal at Akiesta and US 41, and we didn't find major impact. So we think our analysis is worst case, so it's not going to be that much because there's a couple of choices for them.
And nothing prohibits FDOT in the future, should these numbers change, to revisit signalization at some point in the future.
If there is unprecedented growth in the area, definitely there's going to be reevaluation, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Matthews?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you could please go back to that. I still have to assert that you haven't done a traffic count on Baynard, because a lot of the vehicles that are going north on, that want to go north on 41 are cutting across Baynard right now. And what you're seeing is only the people that are going to go out to 41 and do left off of Rio Villa. You haven't taken into account all the people that are cutting across Baynard that are going to cause a major traffic backup, because that road's going to be shut down for a left turn. That is going to be a critically important aspect of this whole intersection change. All of those people that completely ignore the fact that they can go left at 41 right now, everybody's going to go across Baynard. They're not, it's a fact of nature. People do not want to go right to go left, and they don't want to go right and do a U-turn to go left. It's just the way people are. And honestly, I've watched RVs by the dozens come out of that RV storage center, and they all come across Baynard, and it is not safe for two vehicles to pass on that road right now. It's got to be fixed if this is going to happen. It's going to be critically important to the county because it's a county road, and we have to do something to fix that road. It's going to be a massive undertaking because it's going to take additional drainage and additional widening and fixing the sides of the road, because the road is literally crumbling on the sides.
Thank you. And the mayor brings up really good points. Have we done traffic counts on Baynard and Aquista and 41 all at the same time, as well as Rio Villa? I mean, do we have that dynamic all looked at, or are we looking at just one aspect?
I think we did incorporate, and when we went out there, we did counts in all of the areas. Whether we did those completely simultaneously, or one day on one section or one day on another, I'm not sure, but we did evaluate this whole area.
I see Mr. Elias stepping forward. John, why don't you weigh in on this?
For the record, John Elias, Public Works Director. Just to touch on a couple points that Mayor Matthews brought up. Since the letter that we received a while back, we have made Baynard no parking in the right-of-way, which I think will help with the shoulder issues that we were having. And we've also met with city staff, and we've got a project to do some shoulder stabilization and drainage around Rio Villa and up on Baynard. So there will be a couple things that we intend to address.
Thank you. All right, if there's nothing further, why don't you continue with your presentation?
All right, the next intersection we'll talk about is US.
I would like to make a point, though. I know this was a late edition. We really appreciate having a hard copy at the same time that you're presenting something to us. I mean, I get the fact that it's going to be on there for the public to look at later, but just to staff, we're supposed to have this in front of us so we can look ahead, flip around. I can't even find it on the, linked up to the website. So, this is kind of hitting us at the last minute. I guess I appreciate having the information timely, but we really should have that in front of us. So, just thank you.
So as we discussed at the last MPO board meeting of US 41 and Olean, when we came last time, we really didn't want to try out the permissive right turn. I went back with the team. We looked at it a couple of different ways. We took a deep dive. And while I have a little bit of a hesitation, I think as a compromise, we're going to move forward, and we're going to have the outside lane allow a permissive right turn on red, and then the inside lane will have is, you can't turn on red. So the people that want to turn permissive, they'll have to get in the outside lane. The people that are uncomfortable making a right turn, they can stay in the outside lane and wait for the green light.
I appreciate that, and I'm looking at the geometry on the slide here. So are you saying you're going to push that line for the left turn and go-ahead traffic, and the right turn that has to wait, you're going to push that back a little bit so that that single lane has a little bit more view? So that blue line will become the new white line, kind of?
Yes. One of the issues is you don't have proper sight distance, and so pushing the stop bar upstream for those will give the permissive right turn. And further on in the report and the details, it shows the sight triangles, and that'll allow people to see and be able to make that permissive right.
So will it be a green arrow, or will it be a blinking yellow on the furthest right-hand lane?
What it's going to be is there's going to be a blank out sign. And the blank out sign, which you see on the screen, the no turn on red, when you're able to turn on red, it's going to be off.
Got it. Okay. Yes, Commissioner Sam.
Yeah, I want to thank FDOT. I know we had those comments, and I want to thank you guys for, trying to alleviate an issue that we had as a board. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it'll be met with, some happy drivers out there who were stuck at that red light, and my hope is there won't be any conflicts.
Yeah.
And that it'll work. But thank you for, allowing this change from policy. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Great comment.
And I would just add, we'll be observing and monitoring this, and if we start running into issues, we might need to make some changes, but we'll at least try it out.
Thank you.
The next is US 41 and Harborview Drive. Similarly, we're going to move forward and allow at least one lane to do the right turn on red. What you'll see here is there's three alternatives. The first alternative is just to allow the right turn on red. Alternative 2 and 3 is to try to bring back the overlap, which means the right turns and the left turns can operate at the same time. There is an issue, which is the driveway, which is within the what we call the box of the intersection. And for us to be able to use that overlap is we would have to switch that driveway to a right in, right out. We're working, looking at that, seeing what the logistics are. I know currently we don't have any crashes, and that's typically what drives the change in access on a driveway like this. So our preference is to go with alternative 3, which is to allow the right turn on red from the outside lane, and also bring back the overlap. If we're unable to bring back the overlap, we're going to go with alternative 1, which will still give you the right turn on red, but you won't have the overlap, which really boosts your performance for the right turns at that intersection.
Can I ask about so I see that that's the westbound Harborview into Edgewater. What about going the other way? There's also a right turn on red, which used to be there, which isn't there anymore. Are we unable to kind of work both? So in that picture, in the upper left-hand corner, there's another far right lane on Edgewater that would be turning southbound onto 41, but that got truncated when the geography of the intersection was changed because of the massive mast arms and where you're putting the lights. Part of it, I was there the other day, part of it is the lights are not on the other side of the street. I guess it's too far, because sometimes there's mast arms where you could see them and they're ahead of you, and that helps for signalization, but these are on the proximal side of where you want to be, and so you can't get that far out. So you're going to, going back, are you going to have to add a signal arm somewhere closer in, or on the Edgewater or Harborview heading to Edgewater side, so you can actually see it, or will you get that accomplished with the current infrastructure that you have, the current mechanisms you have?
Both alternative 1 and 3 are going to require a supplemental head. One of them is to plant it, mounted essentially in the corner. There's another idea that we may mount it on the end of the mast arm with louvers to try to block it. That's something we're still working out, but yeah, we're going to need to do the supplemental heads so people can see.
Okay. And as far as the other side, the counterflow traffic coming the other way, we're not even looking at that by the Walgreens?
Not at this point. That's something we could take a look at.
Okay, just asking. Was there somebody else that wanted to speak? Oh, Commissioner Hurston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think the other side of the street is just as important as the Harborview Road side, the Edgewater side. I typically travel that way, and I think it's as important as Harborview Road. I mean, it's got the same geometry, the same solution should work. As a matter of fact, we have one less driveway on the Edgewater side.
We'll take a look at that as part of the, implementing either alternative 3 or alternative.
Thank you.
And before I recognize Commissioner Seo, I mean, I appreciate that. And I would understand you saying, let's try this first. Let's see if this is successful. And if it is, then let's look at the other side of the street. If this is not, then I don't know, then it's kind of hard. I don't certainly want to have more conflicts and accidents. So if this actually works, then I think we can say, well, we have a positive result. Let's look at, is there something we can do to the other side? Commissioner Seo, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you want to do solution 1, is that right? Is that what you said? Because we talked about 1 and 3.
We would prefer to do solution 3 because that has the best operation, bringing that dual right turn overlap. The issue is that driveway. We can't have the driveway like it is currently because essentially the left turners, which includes a left turn in that driveway, would have a green, and the right turners would have the green, creating a conflict.
So you're going to move the stop bars and stagger them, is what I'm seeing in red.
Yes, and that's to gain we need sight distance,
Yeah, sure.
visibility.
Okay, at that intersection, and I can't remember, did they have, like we just discussed on Olean, an actual sign that says no right turn on red? Is it actually a sign that says that?
Yes.
So those will remain, but they won't be lit.
It doesn't have what we call a blank out sign, which is one that lights up. It has a traditional written sign, and that'll have to be modified
Okay,
some.
so you're going to modify the sign, okay. And I guess I'll just restate what I said last time. I want to appreciate what FDOT's done to be flexible in looking at these concerns that we had as a board, and hopefully we'll get the data after these improvements are done, and hopefully everything will be safe, and the motoring public will get to make those right on reds that they traditionally used to do and keep the flow going. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one question on this, where you have the arrow turning left, that you have an X through on option 2 and 3. Is that no left turn at all at that intersection coming south?
No, what we're trying to prevent is that left turn into that private driveway.
Okay.
Because that's where the
You'll still be
conflict
allowing
arises.
left turn traffic onto
Yes.
Harborview?
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing the right
Has
turn
anybody
right
talked
out.
to the people at that building?
And that's some of the logistics we would have to work out. We would have to, meet with the people that own the building, negotiate with them, and if they weren't willing to negotiate, we would likely have to go with alternative 1.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Continue, thank you.
And so as part of the last meeting, I know there was some concerns along US 41 between Kings Highway to Cochrane, about waiting times when you're on the side streets during the evening periods, and then also about the lights staying red even though US 41 has stopped flowing through the intersection. Just to kind of get to the bottom line, we don't believe there's any detection issues, so that isn't a problem. That can usually lead to some operational problems. We did look at when it's in free operation, which is how it operates at night. Each intersection operates individually, and given the cycle length, it's about 60 seconds. So you likely should, at the maximum, have to wait 60 seconds before you're able to make that turn. We're looking at it. That may be able to be tweaked a little bit, but that's still a fairly short cycle length. Where we're really focusing in on this point is, we have our main peak period, which is a little earlier for Charlotte County, and before we had it extend to almost 9 o'clock at night with a 160-second cycle length. And what we're looking to do is take a piece of that evening, that later evening, which the traffic isn't as heavy, and reduce that cycle length. And what that's going to allow is that's going to be more responsive to the side streets. So that's one area we're looking at. We did find out we had a major retiming in 2018. That means that this corridor is up for another comprehensive retiming in 2023, next year. And at that point, we'll go through the entire corridor, develop multiple timing plans, and we may even shorten the free time if that looks good operationally. So we have another number of things moving forward that should give some relief to people on the side streets. Any questions, comments?
Thank you for being so thorough.
And with that, I'd just say, if you stay right at night, and watch out for wrong-way driving.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your report and for your hard work and really good answers. And I think, again, I'll echo Commissioner Teseo because I appreciate him bringing that point up, is that, all too often I think we are used to just getting the answer of, no, that's the way it is, and we're not budging, this is the state and just deal with it. But, we really appreciate the fact that you dove in and you found some potential solutions, and we are eager to work with you. So thank you so much for that. Yes, Commissioner Hurston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That chart that you showed does, and it goes from Kings Highway to Cochran. What, Commissioner Deutsch's favorite intersection there at US 41, Forest Nelson, and Crestview, which is an actual nightmare. I think it backs up US 41 southbound, one or two lights past Midway Boulevard. And I just wondered, I think Commissioner Teseo has brought that intersection up also. Did you look at that, or is that just not part of what we're looking at here?
If it wasn't part of the corridor, I'm not remembering that intersection.
Go back to your map. Let's just see what that, it's above, it should be there.
It's in the corridor.
Yeah, toward the top.
Okay. If it's within the corridor, we took a overall view, but we can go back and take a specific look at that intersection itself and see if, some sort of tweaks can be done to improve it.
The 41, Forest Nelson, and on the other side is, what is that road on the other side? It's not the same name. Is it Crestview? No, it's not Crestview. Commissioner Deutsch, you sit there and read.
I've been talking about for 3 years.
Yeah.
The signification is absurd.
It's pretty bad.
You wait there and there's no traffic on 41, and I actually brought a photo in with 11 cars stacked up when the church school was open up at the corner. We could fix it with signification. And just in the last few days, and I'm trying to remember if it was Saturday or Sunday, I was on Forest Nelson, heading west.
Oh, your microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was on Forest Nelson, heading west. There was no traffic at all on 41, and we waited about 60, 70 seconds there with no traffic. And often, when there's no cars making the left lane, the ones that are heading south on 41, you have the signal for the left lane before the rest kicks in, and then the far side of the street goes, and then the side of the street that's heading west goes. I'm on there a lot, and I've been talking about, more than 2 or 3 years now, forever. That's one of my favorites. I was going to save them for comments at the end. But we can fix it with signification. We have the ability to do it. We do it during certain hours, and it works real well. At about 6 minutes after 5, I'm on Harbor Boulevard rolling up towards 41. If there's no traffic on 41, I take my foot off the gas. I'm doing about 30 miles an hour. The light changes and I go through. In fact, my son was here a few weeks ago, and he was with me. The same thing happens at Edgewater, because I'm coming up from the beach complex area. And my son says, wow, how'd you get him to do that? I said, I had nothing to do it. They just do it. But it works. The problem, again, is, we don't adjust the signals for weekends. And that's, again, it's a whole other story. All we have to do is develop and get accurate traffic counts. If we have accurate traffic counts, you guys can sit down and make the decisions. You can do it from a desk. Because we have the ability to do it. And the favorite one, Flamingo and 776. And I was on that twice. The cars get stacked. When it finally changes, you can be a mile away on the straightaway and you'll still make that light, because then it stacks up the traffic on 776. But I've sat there on Flamingo waiting to turn onto 776 and waited and not seen any traffic. And I'm sure on occasion there are some people that have actually gone through that red light on 776 to make that turn. It happens. I've seen it happen. I'm not saying I did it. I just know that it's happened.
So you did. Thank you for those comments. To answer Commissioner Hurston, yes, the other side of the street is Crestview Circle.
Crestview.
That's correct. Did you have a question?
Just real
Yes,
quick
sir.
for Mr. Mathis, the Crestview and Forest Nelson, they each have individual phases, which I don't understand why. There's no reason why both those movements can't be made at the same time. And I think the Crestview movement, I mean, it's quite a long cycle. So I think that would be one thing you could look at.
Typically, the reason we call that a split phase, a lot of times that's due to the geometry of the road and not being able to run both of them, make left turns simultaneously onto US 41. Or if you have a really offset amount of volume that's heavy on one side, then you'll split phase it. But most of the time, it has to do with geometry.
Sure. Understood.
I have Commissioner Teseo and then Commissioner Deutsch.
Hey, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the only issue that I seem to remember with Forest Nelson for me was the right turn lane onto Forest Nelson. There's a bridge that goes over the Lionheart Waterway, so that restricts the ability to extend the stacking for the right turn lane. So I've seen people who want to make that right. They're stuck in traffic because the bridge, you can't make a right turn lane until you go past the bridge that goes over the Lionheart Waterway. So you're kind of limited there in the stacking. And, that's an issue, but I don't think that can be resolved until that bridge is either replaced, and then we look at extending that right turn lane, and, to allow for more people to get in there off of 41. You can make a right into the library, but, just past that, you go down Forest Nelson. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Deutsch. No, you're okay. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Again, thank you very much for your report, and we just look forward to positively engaging with the FDOT and with your area, because I think, again, we're making good strides to make safe improvements. I think we all understand safety is the most important thing. If we can make improvements so we can get more flow and keep it safe, I think that's the goal. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to item number 12, the FDOT report, and we have several items. We'll begin with the FDOT-led discussion.
Hi.
And go ahead.
Sorry. Good afternoon, Tanya Merkel, FDOT Community Liaison. Quick report, we had a District 1 Safe Speed Workshop on June 14th at the Southwest Area Office, and it was an all-day event where we had a good attendance and participation from the Charlotte County, Punta Gorda MPO, and local partners, so that was refreshing to see. There there's another Safe Speed Workshop that was scheduled in September, but that has been delayed right now, pending available budget for things like that, so I will keep you up to date on that, but it was a very fruitful workshop. We also have Mobility Week coming up on October 21st to the 28th. And during this annual week, FDOT and the regional partners attend or host community events and schedule activities to collectively share information with the public and about the multimodal transportation and safety. So that's a good thing that we have coming up, and I'll keep you updated on that. That's my quick things that we have for FDOT report. And then I see you got this up on the screen.
Anya. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Before Tanya gets into the list of items that we talk about normally in our meetings, I have one thing to mention.
Sure.
So first thing is the governor signed our budget for the next year. June 2nd is when he signed it. So we officially have funding for the next year. Our work program is developed, approved, and we're going to be going forward delivering our program just like we already do. There's a trend that we are observing, and I'm sure you all are observing too, the bids that are coming in a lot higher than what we are estimating at. So that is going to have a huge impact to our work program because our estimates are gradually increasing with the bid prices coming higher. So which means as we develop our work program for the next 5 years, going for the next year's budget approval, the projects that we currently have in the work program will probably be preserved with the increase in revenues that are coming in and the increased revenue from the federal bill. We are anticipated to receive about 35% increased revenue, but that increase in revenue from the federal bill plus the increase in revenues that we are seeing is probably going to handle these cost estimate increases. So, there may be a lot of expectations that, we got a lot more revenue coming in, there's going to be new projects coming in. That may not be a reality because of what we are facing with the bid prices. Hopefully the market is going to settle, the inflation is going to come down in the near future, which is going to give us a different picture as we build the program. That being said, the opportunity to go after grant programs and opportunities to apply for grants for the remaining portion of all the discretionary programs that were part of the bill, the federal bill, is still out there. So we'll still talk to your staff about the opportunities for Harbor View and how we can go after that particular project. Whether the county applies for it or we apply for it, that opportunity is still going to be there. So I just wanted to bring that up because when we start building the program, you may see that not many projects are going to be advanced because of that particular impact. Okay.
Yes, Commissioner Tsaya.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and to your point about the prices going up, they also come down. It's cyclical in nature. You look at crude right now. Crude has been trending downward, so any material used in paving that's petroleum based, and if the bids are tied to indexing, you'll see some of those costs begin to go the other way. In addition to some of the discussion about the recession, we may be in a different bid scenario a year from now. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may, and we realize that, right? So part of building our work program, we use the inflation factor within our program because we're building a program now for the next 5 years. So we've decided to keep the inflation factor the same as last year for the what we had, anticipating that particular change. So we didn't want to adjust our program to an inflation factor that may change in the near term. So we kept it stable.
Yeah, on the retail side, we've seen probably a 20% drop at the pump. I think we're down 50 cents from just a month ago, a gallon on unleaded fuel. Diesel starting to follow the trend. And that obviously, goes into the cost of providing these work programs. So it's yet to be seen, but hopefully the trend will turn around. I think a lot of municipalities and counties are talking about even a strategic deferral for certain projects to see where the numbers go. I don't know if FDOT looks at those things as far as deferral, but you've kind of locked into your work program and your budget. That may not be an option for you. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I think we can run through these pretty quickly. I think we've already discussed the US at 41 at Olean, and I think we're going to leave it on, but we're definitely getting movement on that, so we appreciate that. And 776 at Flamingo, we sort of discussed that. Again, there's urgency because we have a developer on the north side, and we know that the south side and north side, that whole thing needs to be done at one time. So I think maybe let's defer that till after we see the corridor study, right? That's coming. Is that on? Yeah, that Veterans Boulevard corridor, it's item 15. So why don't we discuss that when we get to that point, unless anybody has any comments. And then we'll move down to item D, which is the I-75 possible new interchange, and I see representatives from Northport in the audience here, so I'm sure they're very interested. Hey, Dan.
Well, we had a nice meeting back on June 8th with FDOT, the Interstate Planning Office, and the City of Northport to review the current and needed action items. So this is ongoing. There's cooperative conversations going on. The Interstate Office is still working on trying to find a way to make this partnership work and get these needed improvements constructed. There's a lot of coordination that has to continue to go on, and before the Interstate Office can make a determination on exactly where the new interchange may be located, we need to see the work that's being done on the local level and what's realistically going to be needed. So there's a lot of parts still doing, but the conversations are going. Everyone's been in good communication, so I think we'll just keep working forward on this.
Well, I appreciate that. I do want to say that we met with the City of Northport last Thursday, and we had some very good interaction with them. I think we all agreed to adopt a resolution stating that we want to work together regionally with not only the City of Northport, but Sarasota County and the Sarasota Manatee MPO, which, I mean, they've elevated this item as well. So I don't know what more you're looking for or what the federal government might be looking for, but, you know, I think we just need that guidance so that we can help you check those boxes, because we haven't heard anything negative. We also saw a very, very preliminary sort of draft design of what the intersection might look like, and it's both roads with access roads, which would cut down on a lot of the big looping infrastructure that you might need. So it was very interesting to see that for the first time.
Well, I know that with the Interstate Office that they have had some cost estimates created, so that's been out there. We have the PD&E required documentation. We're task ongoing. We're researching that. The preliminary drainage and permitting considerations have been completed, and that's with dealing with our district drainage department. That the water quality attenuation and water quality treatment was previously permitted and constructed for an ultimate 8-lane typical section, so that's in place. And the traffic operations and safety, that task is ongoing, where we still need to confirm if an ice analysis will be required, and the team is analyzing the safety data, and will continue coordinating with our safety office to determine if we are eligible for any safety funding. So they're looking at different aspects of it, but like I said, if we continue to work within all the local jurisdictions and the department, we can move forward and continue doing that.
Thank you. Commissioner DeSeo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we were discussing items B, we skipped over C and went to D, the interchange. I just wanted to...
I'm sorry, I was going to come back.
Okay. And I also wanted to confirm item 15 that's on the agenda today, that does not, I believe that's only for the Veterans Boulevard corridor. We're not going to be discussing the results of the balance of the 776 corridor. Yeah, so I want to make sure, Mr. Chair, we skipped over these, I think, thinking it's going to be addressed for item 15, but it's not.
Okay, so maybe
we may want to hit those now.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Trying to, for the record, Black Scrum, I was trying to clarify what Commissioner DeSeo was saying. The limits for Veterans Boulevard studies from US 41 to Kings Highway.
I got you. Okay, don't leave, Lax. Stay there. If you could call up the map to show the intersection of where Hillsborough almost meets Veterans, because I just wanted to make sure that FDOT was aware. We would be looking to do some alignment possibly in that area between the 5 roads, between Hillsborough, Veterans, Raintree, and Ceres Drive. But there apparently is an FPL easement, which I don't think is going to be easy for us. So you see that there's lines going up Raintree, and so that may be a problem. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that, because we can't talk outside this room. So commissioners, just get a good look. And I don't know if we really talked about that on Thursday, but that may be an issue, because if we're trying to align those roads, put in a roundabout, do whatever needs to be done, I think that could be a problem. And I don't know how we move them off the block, because we don't control them. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what we don't know yet.
Right.
So until we take a deeper dive into this and see what's actually there, it's hard to really, make a final determination. So I understand what you're saying, but it may not be a conflict at the end of the day once we get going on it.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Harris.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as this develops further, what the MPO suggests is that a feasibility study be listed as a priority to look at maybe the possibility of a roundabout. I did also hear a second roundabout mention at the joint City of Northport Board of County Commission meeting. So if the county or the board would like to list a priority for a feasibility study, MPO definitely supports that.
Second roundabout?
I heard it. I listened. I didn't attend in person, but I heard mention of a second roundabout in the area. I'm not sure.
Possibility at Yorkshire as well?
I think it was.
Oh, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, Yorkshire and Ranger. Okay, very good. Yes, thank you, sir. Okay, if there's nothing further on that, well, let's move back to B, which is 776 at Flamingo Boulevard. So, do you want to do you have any other updates on that?
I don't have any other updates other than it was deferred and will be returned when it's possible. So there's ongoing discussions, coordination with the county about these items, but.
Well, Mr. Elias is getting his steps in, so we're going to approach the microphone here.
For the record, John Elias, Public Works Director. We have worked with LK, FDOT. As you mentioned earlier, Commissioner, there is a development coming in on the north side that we're also taking into consideration. So we've definitely broken that out in our design, and that's being done parallel with everything else we're doing as a priority for us. So we're trying to work through that.
Thank you. Commissioner Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Has the developer, Coulter Land Group, reached out yet with their engineers, I think it's Banks Engineering, to actually put together a plan?
I don't know if I can get in trouble for speculating, but I don't think the people that I'm talking about developing is Coulter.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, whoever it is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but have
We work with anybody as they come online, immediately let them know what the plan is, and we'd roll them into them discussions.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Secretary.
So we made a commitment that as Charlotte County is working on the concept for the Flamingo improvements, as it connects to State Road 776, both on the north and the south side, we will at minimum provide the signal equipment for the intersection. So we'll continue our conversations, and that commitment still stands.
And I appreciate that, and that's not a small commitment. And then, if we need to get it done, design according to your standards and with your approvals, and then if we have to put in the construction dollars, as hopefully the developer does as well. But, right, we want to move ahead. We appreciate, it would be great if we had the money on your timetable, but it's not going to happen. But this has to happen for us. So thank you for that commitment. Okay, and then let's move on to 776 at the Charlotte Sports Park. That's now finally in our program, but it's years out. Is that correct?
That one I have is deferred, and that one will be returned to when it's possible.
Okay. Commissioner Seo.
So when you say deferred, we were proposing some right turn lanes into the sports park, and an additional left turn lanes, so we have double left turn lanes possibly, or an extension of the one left turn lane we have to accommodate more stacking. You're saying all of that is deferred to some future date? Because I know you were doing your corridor study, so I wasn't sure if those elements were addressed in that study. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, so the conversation that we had, well, let me go back to the sports park, right? We had funding for design of the turn lanes at that intersection. Last year, when we were building our work program, we had to defer several projects, and one of the projects was the design of those turn lanes. In the interim, per the MPO's request, we have done the study along State Road 776 to look at what intersection improvements are needed and presented it to the board. We're still waiting on confirmation from MPO and county staff on the priority list that was proposed as part of that study. My proposal would be, get that priority list to us so that as we are building our work program for the next 5 years, we can take that into account and go very similar approach as we did with US 41 intersections about 10, 12 years ago. Use the same approach and tackle 776 intersections. If Charlotte Sports Park is the top priority for the MPO, then we'll tackle and try to include that particular intersection as the top priority as we build our work program. So my request is, let's get that priority list approved and submit it to us so that we can look at what we can program and what we cannot program.
I see Mr. Harris taking his notes. So we'll go over those priorities then.
And I mean, it may also come down to, give us an estimated price tag, because it may be something that, it's a priority to us, but it's not going to be our number one priority. We have many others that we really need to see funding for, but maybe it's something that we need to come up with the funding for, if it's something that, because otherwise it's going to be 5 or 7 years, before it actually gets in the ground.
Mr. Chair, we've been in conversations with your staff about developing those cost estimates, but also looking at those funding partnerships to make more things happen, right? More of those priorities happen. So very consistent with what you said.
Yep. Okay, thank you, sir. All right. If there's nothing further, then let's move on to our joint local and FDOT discussion. Harborview Road combined funding. Any updates? We're just where we were. We're trying to seek, and you spoke earlier about looking at other federal grants that we can try to leverage. Okay. If there's no other questions, we'll move on to US 41 southbound at Melbourne Street.
And as we've talked about, there's been ongoing conversations with the county and FDOT to work on that, but we don't have anything finalized on that.
Well, I've had a discussion with the group, one of the main individuals with the group with Whiskey Joe's, explaining that, it would be better to certainly involve them in the process on what the solution will be, explaining that, I'd rather be proactive and get to a place where everybody understands that safety first, and let's do it proactively, than don't do anything and some horrific accident happens and we wind up shutting it. And now we haven't done any planning, and now there will be a very devastating effect on a business that's open and thriving and then wasn't prepared for it. I want to compliment our secretary for being involved in that process and really shepherding the idea and working with this group and with the county. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but engineers are very smart people, and I think we're going to figure out a design solution for this intersection. But I'm happy to say that I believe that the principals involved in that property are on board to arrive at a solution with us. So it's a good thing. It's going to take some time, but I think everybody understands. Yes, Commissioner Hurston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lax, where is the Sunseeker main entrance on that aerial? Does anybody know?
Sure. Yes, sir.
It's going to be up.
I think it's right.
Down from the gas station.
That'll
a little further, yeah.
So that'll be a lighted intersection?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It'll be a signal.
So that's certainly not their main entrance for what they're building right now. It is?
Yeah, where that light will be is going to be their main entrance. So that people can approach northbound, get to the light, to the turn lanes, get in, and southbound, that deceleration lane that is currently there now becomes their entry point into their facility.
So go back to that location, Lax, if you would, please. Just put your mouse right on it. So it's right there. Huh? So where's the two existing Sunseeker buildings that are under construction right now?
So just go, zoom out.
Zoom out.
It's further south.
Okay, so they're not, okay.
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there's nothing further, then let's move on. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Commissioner Sale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know we went over the Harborview Road combined funding. We kind of glossed over that. I just wanted to confirm with FDOT, we're working together on that, and I just want the DOT to kind of recap so the public understands where we are in terms of, the funding for the right-of-way acquisition and funding for construction and the status of that.
So, Mr. Chair,
Sir.
so the current plan is we broke the corridor into two segments, and the design for both segments is ongoing, and the right-of-way funding for both segments is funded with the federal funding that comes to the district and local funding that Charlotte County is providing. So both those phases are completely funded, and the reason we took that approach is we wanted to get the project to a point where what we call a shovel-ready project. So that means if funding opportunity comes up for construction for the entire project, then we could go for construction. And that's what I was mentioning as grant opportunities for all the discretion programs that come through the federal bill. If we are not successful through the grant opportunities, the backup plan is we have the construction funding for the first segment funded in fiscal year 26 or 27, I don't remember exactly, with joint federal funding and local funding. And the plan is to look for funding for the second segment with similar partnership arrangements so that we can make the second segment also happen. So we got kind of like parallel efforts going on, but the whole reason why we advanced the design and the right-of-way with joint funding is to go after the any funding opportunities that may available.
So in your opinion, then, the quickest we would see any movement on the project, construction-wise, would be 2026, 2027 for the funding for construction?
With the current plan, it's 26, 27 for one segment. However, the shovel-ready aspect of the project would be sometime in fiscal year 24. We will be end of fiscal year 24, which will be June of 25 is when we'll be ready. And if we have construction funding available through some grants or whatever opportunities, then we can go forward at that time.
Yeah, I just wanted to get the update because that segment is so important. It is. It's a connector to I-75. It's only going to get busier as we continue to grow. So I just thought for the public, just kind of give them a measured expectation as to, where we are in the project and, when we can expect to see some dirt moving out there. But there's a lot of planning goes into it. And FDOT, again, it's another project that they've been a great partner in, considering it's a county road. I think it's just another, thank you goes out to FDOT for working and partnering with Charlotte County on getting that project to move forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. All right, and so we're up to item C, which is the Vermont Road safety discussion.
That's a county road. I don't know if Mr. Elias has any more information on that right now.
Well, we have been talking at the commission about different options, whether it's passing zones or double yellow striping it or lowering speeds, but I think enforcement and the Secretary and I had some discussions about possibly camera monitoring or different things. I mean, my big concern is long-haul trucking using that, and most of the reputable long haulers don't even go back roads. They take the interstates. So I think we need to be looking at short-term, medium-term, and long-term solutions, and I think the longer-term solutions are going to be the most expensive. But just interested to see what we've come up with. Mr. Elias?
Again, for the record, John Elias, Public Works Director. So this has only really come up more recently. I know we had a team put together some ballpark, really high-end numbers for a long-term solution. I believe Real Estate Services even putting together some costs for what it would take to purchase the land acquisition for all that. I had a side conversation with LK, just having a discussion peer to peer, and in talking, there's probably multiple interim solutions that we could start. I think one of them that would be easy for us to do that would help us gather data on speeds as well would be to put the radar feedback signs. And again, we're struggling to get those, but as we get them, that certainly would be a candidate for that. That would help us gather some actual data about the speeds that are occurring out there. Recently, someone came in and made some comments about where the primary issues are, and I would say I probably don't necessarily disagree with that. That might be something that, if board directs us, that we could potentially put some no passing zones and some targeted law enforcement, but we're still in the very early phases of that.
Mr. Gaither?
Good afternoon, Wayne Gaither with FDOT for the record. So based on a conversation that you had with Secretary Nandum regarding Vermont Road, I did some research, or did some question asking. Got in touch with our Florida Department of Highway folks. They have been running enforcement along Vermont, along the area, the whole area. They put in a significant amount of hours, have done in roughly 100 different inspections within the area, and they have not seen any significant issues for the freight traffic that's moving through the area. In addition, we took a look at some of the different locations where the trucks could be moving along, moving off of the interstate. And Jones Loop did come up as Jones Loop ramp area came up. They do have some equipment that is located out there. It's weighing equipment for the vehicles that are based inside the actual roadway themselves. So they are checking vehicles that are moving through the area using that exit. They are also have additional equipment to look at vehicle license. This is primarily a tool that's used for an enforcement tool across the board. It's not strictly a truck tool that's utilized. So for the entire area, as we have vehicles moving through and around the area, Florida Highway Patrol has been involved and will continue to work towards an enforcement side. They are going to have to stage back some of their enforcement within the area as they start moving into other areas, moving into their other scheduled patrol areas.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the look, the investigation on that. Thank you. Mr. Elias?
I would just add one other thing. I went out there to look at a drainage concern from a citizen. We went out to Glades County line the other day, which has been a while since I've been out there. Primarily what we've seen is between 31 and 17 tremendous amount of dump trucks hauling shell rock from the mining operations for all the development going on. So that's really what I seen, that even me realizing what was out there, it was a staggering amount of dump trucks hauling.
I disagree. Commissioner Deutsch.
Yeah, we've talked about the dump trucks. We know that. We know the citrus trucks aren't, they're a little bit more seasonal. They're there. But the bottom line, we've said this repeatedly, is the fact, there's no shoulders. There's nowhere to go. And I can't document it because I don't have the information in front of me, but my recollection is most of those accidents seem to be head-on collisions, and they seem to be pretty dangerous. I think no passing is the way to go, to give that a shot. People may not be happy with it. It's going to take them a little longer. It's going to save lives. And I wouldn't be surprised that the greatest majority of the accidents are not when it's dark. It's when it's, when at least at night you can see the headlights when somebody's trying to pass or coming in that other lane. In the daytime, it's tougher to see it. But I think definitely in the short term that no passing might reduce the number of accidents. I'm sure it would.
Okay, well, I appreciate the discussion. So are we going to, when do you, I didn't realize, Mr. Elias, that there's a backup in those devices for monitoring speeds and, doing traffic counts and things like that. How many do we have? How many do we have on order?
Okay, so we have none because we've deployed every one that we've ordered. I think I ordered some for Burnt Store. I ordered some for veterans, and I think I told them to order extra. And there was a backlog. I think we have 6 additional that we've ordered, and I think we had even had conversations that 74 would probably be a location. So it would definitely be some place that we could put them. With the length of 74, it might make sense to do them in a couple different spots. And again, it's talked about in our transportation discussions. These are certainly 15,000 plus as opposed to $60 for a speed limit sign. But the data that they give us and the feedback to the public, we feel the specific areas, these are warranted, including this one.
How many do we actually have in
deployed right now? I would have to get back to you. I'm going to say probably 6 to 8, if I had to guess, somewhere in that range.
Are they fixed, or you can move them?
We have both. The ones that we're talking about here would be fixed, but we also have trailer-mounted versions that can be placed and deployed quicker than the fixed versions.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. And then I guess the last one is US 41 at Rio Villa Road and Ikea Star improvements. Do we want to have any further discussion on that?
Mr. Chair, this is Lance Agura with Charlotte MPO. I think that item has been covered when Mark Maddy was talking about disposal improvements.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, we will move on to item number 13.
Good afternoon, everybody. Richard Ojeval, Project Development Manager, Florida Department of Transportation, District 1. I'm going to go over these really quick because they're more updates and really just kind of next steps that you'd be looking at. Let me get the presentation up. There we go. So first one, I'm going to go through both, 2 of them, North Jones Loop, and then I'm also going to go through Taylor Road. North Jones Loop, DOT, we began a feasibility study back July 2020 to evaluate potential widening of North Jones Loop. After we got started, we kind of backed up, looked at doing a feasibility study to more define the improvements. And as doing as such, we've also been able to look and see harder and see a specific set of improvements that we can recommend to y'all to move further. And here's the schedule right now. Like I said, we're wrapping up the feasibility study. We did initial data collection 2020 through 2021. We developed several alternatives, summarizing up the feasibility study to keep moving it forward in the process. Throughout the feasibility study, we segmented the project essentially for several reasons. One, more distinction with the county's element, which is segment 1. Segment 2 covers more the interstate, basically limited access control for the interstate. And then the third is the segment that goes from the east side of the interchange to Piper Road and access to the airport. Also, we split these up for funding to be able to maximize our funding resources. The interstate has more availability for interstate and CIS funds, while the access to the airport is emerging CIS as far as and potential grants. The segment number 1 would be more solely focused on the county. To go over some of the concepts we came out, and I'm going to try to blow this up a little bit, is that the main differences you'll see, and it's a little bit fuzzy and I'll apologize, is that with this first alternative, what we call a conventional intersection, the left turns still make the lefts at the intersection of Taylor and North Jones Loop. We do recommend making some improvements to Indian Springs and also for Knights Trail, because under both these scenarios there's a signal warrant potential for down at Knights Drive and at Taylor. But the main thing is that this would be a conventional intersection. All the left turns, everything happens there. The full 8 phases that you would see, left turns with overlaps for the major movements followed by the through movements. Not as efficient as you'd like. One of the other alternatives we looked at, and I'm going to zoom back out, hit the button, is a quadrant intersection, where we would restrict left turns both eastbound and westbound along Jones Loop and have the signage so that coming from the east that you would go down Knights through a signal and go there. And if you were coming from the west to go north on Taylor, you could go up under Indian Springs through a traffic light up in here, and it relieves the need for left turns at the intersection, makes it a little bit more efficient, and you can pump more vehicles through it. Either one of the options panned out to be fairly equal. It's a county decision, so we're just making you aware, and in our feasibility report, we're showing you the performance, but they both work fairly well. It's just a matter of preference for y'all from the local side. As we move further in, we're also looking at the interstate where we had separated out, like I said, limited access to limited access. We're looking at, in the interim, safety improvements at the interchange where we would, what I call our Lando right turns from the ramp, which is 2 sets of right turn lanes as you go northbound and southbound. So if you're coming southbound off of I-75, if you are destined to areas further to the west and don't need to access like the Love's truck stop and all the rest of those things, is that you would take more of a free flow right turn. If you do have to access those uses, what we'd recommend to do is build what we call an island here that would prevent people that made this free flow right cutting over those 2 or 3 lanes to dive into the left turn pocket to get into Love's. It forces them to come up to the intersection at the traffic light, make the left turn, and then be able to make the left safer at nights to be able to access the Love's and the other businesses through there. Further to the, I'm going to hit the next one, further to the east, again, we have 2 concepts, just as the gentleman had mentioned, a potential for a roundabout at the entrance to Piper or a conventional signal. We would recommend a roundabout because it keeps the semis moving and it cuts down on their delays and everything like that. It's also a safer option between the traffic signals, and it would also facilitate U-turns easier if vehicles found out that they were going the wrong way and they had to make a U-turn within that area. For the overall concept on everything, we do recommend a shared use path coming all the way from 41, traversing North Jones Loop as we got over here to Knights Road, and I'm jumping around and I apologize. The shared use path would shift to the south side of the road, and it's illustrated here in the black line leading all the way up to the airport. All of these improvements that I've gone over, except for a minor corner clip here for this roundabout, are all attributable within the right-of-way, and no need to see me anymore. We can move this into design and go through a minor evaluation that makes it go much faster and saves money. We're actually working with the MPO staff, and I'm working with our SIS coordinator, trying to get funding for the emerging SIS portion, which is the Piper Road to the interstate, and also looking at SIS funding for the interstate, plus discretionary funds for the interstate to try to get these moving forward. Just to give you a quick reference on cost, the first segment, which is the urban segment, which basically goes from Indian Hill Cemetery to the interstate, is with the improvements to both Taylor and the intersection, it's about 16 to 18 million, and those are, we're even, tagging the dates we're estimating these things because they were going up so quick. But back in February, that's when we ran the cost. The segment within the interchange itself, which is doing the improvements for safety coming in and off the interstate, is about 8.5 million. And the segment just from the interstate to get out to the airport, including the roundabout, is about 2.8 million. So we're working really hard at trying to get at least the roundabout and the portion getting to the interstate, and then working with our interstate group to try to move that forward. Next steps, again, we're working with your MPO, with Duan and everybody to try to get at least those 2 segments on the interstate and out to the airport funded. We're trying our best. It can go basically from this feasibility study directly into design. So we'd like to try to get that somehow worked on and funding in the next couple of cycles. Again, just contact information, the project website. We made a change to our public websites, just I'll let you know. So if there's a couple of mistakes on there, we're still going through some ground truthing, but there's new websites for that. I'm the project manager still for now, and any questions between myself and Mr. Orrell, our communications director in District 1. I'm going to stop on this one, and any questions?
Richard Sale?
Mayor was in first.
I'm sorry, Mayor Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you please go back to the Taylor Road
Yes.
slide?
Let me escape. Let me do it the quicker way. So the intersection slide, yes.
Yeah. So you were suggesting that perhaps you were going to shut down left turns on the east and west traffic flow?
No, ma'am, it's just 2 alternative intersections we looked at. These are your roads, and we're just giving you 2 options that we saw that worked out the best.
Okay. The Taylor Road, the Jones Loop Road access driveway to Walmart is one of the only, you see that very small little exit right above the word path. That's a major outflow from the Walmart parking lot. And we've got, okay, so to the left of that, where the trees are right now, you've got 257 apartments being built on the north side of Jones Loop. You've got 240 single-family homes on the south side of Jones Loop. And you've got potentially another 146 units of single-family attached homes on the north side abutting Taylor Road. So all of that traffic, if they were to utilize the Walmart, as just a partial example of my concern here, there's only two ways to get out of the Walmart, and both of those access driveways dump a lot of traffic onto that intersection. Anybody that's going to be living in any of those homes or any of the 10,000 other new homes on Burnt Store Road, it's going to be critically important to leave that intersection open as it is and allow left turns and U-turns there.
And that is our first option.
Yeah. I just
and you will also
wanted to
notice-
bring that up because that is, there's a huge amount of development going on in that corridor. So that would be certainly a concern for all of the people that use any of those facilities along that section of the road.
Absolutely. And again, they are both local roads, so that's why we're leaving those options, because you guys have more insight and it's under y'all's control.
I would certainly recommend that be left open.
One other minor thing that we did recommend, and you brought it up, is that there were several things, possibly relocating the Walmart access to provide a better connection along Taylor Road with the Loves. It makes it a one median opening of center point. That would help. It also pulls it a little bit further away from the intersection. The second thing is that I'm going to zoom out, is that it would be great to get a potential backage road here, connecting both, I guess this is Knights, when it actually becomes Mac Drive when it goes north of the interstate, to connect over to this other road, because then you would have open this area to be able to get all the way over to Taylor or to get to the signal a little bit easier. And again, it's a local road. We're just offering options on that side. We're working with the MPO on the stuff to the east and the interstate to try to get that financed and funded. Any more questions?
Commissioner Sam?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, if we go back to the funding slide, segment 1, 16.6 to 17.9 million on the county end for that segment. That's a big ticket item, and that does not include the right-of-way that's yet to be determined.
There is no right-of-way. All these improvements can be done within the right-of-way.
Okay, because it says right-of-way to be determined.
Yes, on there. Well, and I'll take that back, because there would be some impacts to Indian Hills Cemetery Road, depending on...
But minor.
Yes. We're hoping that everything is minor as far as right-of-way.
So we're looking at up to $18 million for that segment.
In February 2022
Yeah.
costs.
Yeah.
They may be up, they may be down. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Now, I know and Mayor, maybe you can help me with this one. I believe the city has been moving out that way. Did you annex Aldi's? And I think you're looking at some other possibilities?
That's already been annexed. The whole parcel of the Loop property was annexed several years ago in an interlocal agreement through the county. So that's all been done. Aldi's and Walmart are in the city limits, as are all of the parcels on the north end side of Jones Loop Road between 41 and Taylor, except for the one little parcel that's on the north side right before Taylor Road. There's a little triangular piece of property over there. That is not in the city, but the rest of that is all annexed into the city.
Yeah, well, I guess with, this segment that services those annexed properties, I almost wonder if this could be a joint discussion with the city.
It might be something we could put on our joint meeting agenda.
On the agenda, since that's being worked on.
Yeah, you can't get blood from a turnip. Just remember that.
Well, I thought it was worth sharing.
Yes, well, it's worth a discussion. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Hurston?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. OJ, go back to the Piper Road roundabout.
Yes.
As an airport commissioner, I would fully support the roundabout. But my question is there a point at which the percentage of trucks becomes so great that you have to increase the diameter of the roundabout?
No, the percentage is not. It's more just an overall volume and it beginning to break down. It's just, capacity-wise. But no, as far as the trucks, we sized them this roundabout is designed, if you notice, it's not your perfect shape, and it was designed more so looking at preliminary from the large amount of trucks that would be using it.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chair, if you remember, I mentioned a couple of MPO meetings ago that we are repurposing the closed rest area to be a truck stop center where, trucks could actually park and before they go to the airport and to the businesses up there, right? So we're going to repurpose that to provide truck parking and as a place where they can park and go to the businesses. And this roundabout is going to be very helpful for the trucks who intend to go back onto the interstate to make a U-turn. So it kind of works for dual purpose because the median opening for the rest area is pretty close to the interstate.
Thank you. Okay.
No more questions. I'll move to the Taylor Road.
Please, move ahead.
All right. Let's get everything back. Speed it up. Taylor. Oh, that's all right. I can't. Just had a birthday. My eyes are still hanging in there, but at 61, I can't see the small stuff. Oh, and just FYI, today is Hug Your Kid Day and also Get Out of Jail Free, or Get Out of the Doghouse Free Day. So I think that goes along with hugging your child and whatever else. But those are 2 national holidays today, with the third being National Hot Dog Day and my birthday. So, all right. I'm going to real quick go through the Taylor Road feasibility study. Again, this project, through doing some feasibility work, we were able to downgrade the class of action on this. This is just a minor project. I'm here today with Mr. David Bogner, who's in the back, who's raising his hand. He's going to inherit the design for the second segment on this project, which is from Airport up to North Jones Loop. It's something also that the previous director of the MPO, Mr. Harrell, championed very strongly throughout his tenure here. So we're helping carrying out that to, honor Mr. Harrell. Basically, the Taylor Road, the shared use path, is going to extend just from the eastern side of the Seminole Gulf Coast Railroad northward to first segment is segment 1, which is the light blue. It's design segment 2, but it goes from basically Royal, which is, like I said, just to the east of the Seminole Gulf Railroad, all the way up to Jones Loop. And then the second, which we have programmed for design, is going from Jones Loop up to Airport. Project length's about 3.6 miles. And again, the main goals: provide safe, non-motorized options along the road, create a comfortable environment for pedestrians and bicycle, support the goals of Charlotte County. Basically, when we went through, we did not see any major significant impacts. We checked through the wetlands, natural habitat. We were able to get the path within all of the right-of-way, also considering expansion and I believe it's water distribution project that's going on, that we could get everything in there. Also getting it within the existing overhead utilities. And we do anticipate that we will have crossings at Alligator Creek and North Fork of Alligator Creek, plus the road crossings as normal. Here is just a real quick conceptual sketch with the existing 2-lane. We're proposing a 12-foot shared use path. However, the material's yet to be decided as far as construction. We're just, like I said, we're going from this feasibility study into design, but we're envisioning a shared 12-foot path along the east side. Cost as far as for each one of the segments: for the the northern segment, North Jones to Airport, about $6.5 million. For the second phase from Royal down to North Jones Loop, $7.3 million. And considering, unless our, let's say, a friendship with Seminole Gulf Coast Railroad, we're probably going to ask for y'all's help in getting that across there to hook it up to the 41 trail. They don't seem to like us that much. And again, we are right here. We're just in the planning phase. Even though I'm wrapping up my portion in here, we're really just starting. We're getting into design, and the same thing for the North Jones Loop is that we're transitioning out as quick as we can to save money and get both of these projects moving. The design's funded for 24 for that segment from Airport or from Jones Loop to Airport. We are still looking for construction funding, and we'll be working with the MPO also with that. With that, It's really quick, I know, but I wanted to just kind of just touch it really. Even again, introduce the design project manager, Mr. Wagner, and they'll be starting with the design next fiscal year. And any questions?
Madam Mayor, did you have a question? No, okay. Anybody push the button? No, okay. You unpushed, you got it. It's not working, so I have to go by who looks at me, okay.
We're good? All right, I'm trying to get everybody on track again. Oh, safety minute, always look for pedestrian and bicyclists.
Sir. All right, thank you very much for that. And then, if there's nothing further, we'll have item 15, the Veterans Boulevard Corridor Planning Study, draft recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Vitor Seguri. I'm the CIS coordinator and PM for this project. And today I have with me Babuji. He's our consultant PM and helping us lead the project. And today we're going to present the Veterans Boulevard, not State Road 776. You might have some flashbacks to it. And as you all know, it's about 7 miles of a corridor going from US 41 to Kings Highway. And for the agenda, we're going to go briefly over the study purpose and objectives, just as a reminder, our methodology, program plan projects that are already planned in the books. And Babuji is going to go over our draft recommendations, study timeline, and next steps so we can get some feedback and discussion. So the purpose and objective is very similar to State Road 776. We want to improve mobility, safety for all modes. And some of the major concerns that we heard is capacity, operational improvements, and new traffic controls. And capacity meaning that we want to make sure we can improve traffic flow so that it's more effective. Some of the objectives is we conduct safety, operational, and multimodal analysis. So look at different components in the corridor. And similar to State Road 776, we're looking at intersection-specific improvements in lieu of widening Veterans Boulevard. And we identifying and prioritizing those improvements in the short, mid, and long term. The years that are shown here are just for a reference, so we have at least a baseline to go for, but those can change as we move forward. The study methodology, we look at a few of the key elements for the existing conditions, and we look at the anticipated future traffic volumes. Some of the questions we got before, if we look at the growth in the area, we heard that the area is growing very quickly. And we did look at the projections based on the land use and what's going to come in the future. And we conducted field observations, we collected historical crash data, and we conducted operational analysis and stakeholder input, which is the MPO staff and county staff. We conducted a CapEx analysis, which are high-level intersection analysis. We look at the program plan improvements to make sure everything aligns, that we're not doing anything that goes against what's already programmed and planned. We looked at our published guidelines, state and other guidelines. We look at similar projects to see what can be done. And some of the improvement types that you're going to see throughout the corridor include turn lanes, some operational improvements, some of the innovative intersection types that Babuji is going to cover in a little bit. We also proposing some of the safety measures, multimodal and ADA improvements, lighting, and ITS, which is Intelligent Traffic System, which is also something this body brought up before, which is the smart signals, looking at what technology is going to bring into the future to make sure the corridor is going to be efficient. So programmed improvement projects, there's no capacity improvement projects for the corridor. There is sidewalk installation from Harbor Boulevard to Midway Boulevard to Veterans, construction 2023. And we also have a new transit expansion, a 2 miles radius. So here's just a snapshot that you have a visual of what I just mentioned as the capital improvements program for 2020. So it's a road paving schedule, so you can see the whole corridor is scheduled for construction 2034. And we have some additional links in 2030, 2025, and throughout the year. But the most important is on Veterans Boulevard. So planned roadway improvement, this is on the Long Range Transportation Plan 2045 cost feasible plan. We already talked about the link between Veterans and Ring 3. This is highly dependent on different moving pieces, including I-75 interchange. But it is on the LRTP, and we just make sure we're mindful of that connection. And some intersection modifications as on Paulson Drive as you're approaching US 41. And then there are also 2 key ones, Kings Highway and Peachland Boulevard. They're also in the LRTP, and we understand why they're important and why they're in the LRTP. So planned multimodal improvements, we talked about the sidewalk and the bicycle pedestrian needs. This one covers the entire corridor, and it will be up to the county to decide which facility will be best suited for the community. But it is a corridor-wide need for bicycle and pedestrian improvements. And I'm going to turn over to Babuji. He's going to briefly go over some of the traditional innovative capacity improvements that we're going to be using as recommendations.
Thank you, Vitor. For the record, this is Babuji. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners and Secretary. From this slide, you can see the anticipated safety benefits of different types of turn lane improvements, as well as providing a traffic signal, as well as providing a roundabout, as well as a restricted crossing U-turn. So we did look at all these different type of improvements. In general, we also looked at the safety improvements as well as multimodal and ADA improvements. So you can see here several improvements for the corridor, including placing the reflective black plates to the signal heads, as well as creating high friction safety surface treatment, as well as tightening the corner radii and enhanced lighting. So from here, I will be talking about the various improvements which we are recommending based upon our analysis for the study intersections. The first intersection is Veterans Boulevard at Murdoch Circle, as Vitor mentioned. So this is the first signal which we took into account. So the first recommendation for the short term is the signal coordination. When we were in the field, we observed that there's signal coordination is not good between US 41 and Cochrane Boulevard. So that's a low-hanging fruit. We would recommend that one in the short term. And for the midterm, we are recommending an additional southbound through, as well as an exclusive westbound right and additional northbound through. And for the long term, we are recommending an additional exclusive eastbound right. So in addition, this is one of the intersections which the county initially told that very important for them because they already have 60% plans at Veterans Boulevard and Cochrane Boulevard. So we met with the county staff, and again, as I initially mentioned, the first recommendation would be is the signal coordination, which includes Cochrane Boulevard also. And based upon the coordination with the county staff, we are recommending this exclusive eastbound right, provide 2 northbound lefts, and 2 northbound throughs, and 1 exclusive northbound right. And also, we are recommending an exclusive southbound left, 1 southbound through, and 1 southbound through right, shared through right. And last, we are recommending an additional westbound left to meet the demand. In addition, we are also recommending several safety improvements, including bringing the intersection lighting to the FDM standards. Next intersection, the Atwater Street improvement, Atwater Street. So this is already a signalized intersection, So we are recommending an additional southbound left turn as well as extending the northbound left turn at this intersection. As for the midterm, we are recommending eastbound right and westbound right exclusive turn lane improvements for this intersection. So Yorkshire Street is the one which is, we already looked into it. Based upon the existing traffic volumes, it does not warrant a traffic signal at this point of time. However, to address the safety issues, including there are several left turn crashes and angle crashes at this intersection. See, as you all mentioned, safety is paramount for both the county as well as for the state. So we recommend an unsignalized restricted crossing U-turn at this intersection. However, we all understand that there's a lot of moving pieces, as Vitor mentioned, at the potential interchange of I-75 and Yorkshire Street. So when that happens, this has to be re-looked at to see what type of control is needed. So as a midterm, we mentioned here, consider a signalized, but we also would recommend a roundabout. So a signalized median arcade or a roundabout, whichever is needed, has to be looked at. But before that, we need to make sure that we are all on the same page on the potential interchange of I-75 and Yorkshire or Raintree or whatever it is. So next one is the Harbor Boulevard. Based upon the existing volumes, a signal is warranted, but we do recommend to look at the roundabout also. Based upon our analysis, a roundabout will operate at acceptable level of service through the design year 2045. We are also recommending an exclusive eastbound right for this intersection. Another intersection is Orlando Boulevard. This is also was a high priority provided by the county. So based upon our analysis, it does meet warrants for a traffic signal, but we do recommend that a roundabout also needs to be looked at. Based upon our analysis, a roundabout will work for the year 2045. In addition to the traffic control, we are recommending a southbound left and a southbound through right. Same thing for the northbound approach, and also an exclusive eastbound right. Next one is at Torrington Street. This also, we observed several crashes at this intersection. So to make it safer, we are recommending an unsignalized restricted crossing U-turn, as well as an exclusive westbound right and exclusive eastbound right at this intersection. I think during the CAC meeting, we did get a note from LAX from the, about placing an exclusive eastbound right, which we have accounted for in this slide. Next one is the Norman Street. When we came and presented the MPO board meeting, I think you all wanted to include the Norman Street intersection. We were able to perform the traffic counts. We, based upon our analysis, we have recommended an exclusive eastbound right at this intersection, plus also an unsignalized restricted crossing U-turn, as we'll be placing an U-turn east of the intersection to make sure that you could make this arcade work. The next one is the Loveland Boulevard. As you know, this is only a right in, right out at today's today in field. So we are recommending a median U-turn to make it. You can use that U-turn east of the intersection. This helps Norman Boulevard, because once you make sure that people can make left turn at this intersection, the cut-through traffic at Norman Street will be reduced. So I just want to bring that point here. And for the long term, we are recommending a roundabout. As you can see from this slide, both North Orlando Boulevard and Loveland Boulevard are kind of offset. So it will involve a little bit more right of way. So that's the reason we are recommending in the midterm to have a potential roundabout covering both intersections. As Vitor mentioned, the next intersection is the Peachland. You have two closely spaced intersections, namely Peachland Boulevard and the Kings Highway. So as part of this intersection improvement, which I'm going to show you in the next slide also clearer, but here just to point out here, the number one improvement is a signal coordination. We need to look at Peachland Boulevard, Kings Highway, as well as the I-75 ramps, both the southbound ramp termini and the northbound ramp termini. The reason I put an asterisk in the slide here is the I-75 ramps are not part of this study. However, to make it more efficient, we need to look at 4 intersections as part of the signal retiming. So next, the second improvement we are recommending is to make this intersection more efficient, the westbound approach, we want to make it right in, right out, so that, and also you can make a U-turn on the north leg of Veterans Boulevard at Daleway by signalizing that approach. And the third improvement would be is to make 3 northbound left. So right now you have, in the next slide I'll be showing that more clearer, but our recommendation is to have 3 northbound lefts, 1 northbound through, and a shared northbound through right. So similar to Peachland, we also looked at the Kings Highway. As I initially mentioned, Kings Highway will be part of the signal retiming between Peachland as well as the I-75 ramps. So that's number 1. And the number 2 improvement is in coordination with Peachland, we need to make sure that we have 3 southbound lefts and 1 southbound through right for the short term. And as we get into, as the intersection gets more congested, we need to be looking at 1 additional southbound through at this intersection. So this graphic, you can see more clearer what I mentioned. So let's look at the Peachland intersection. For example, so you can accomplish the 3rd northbound left. You can see the insert A to the left. So right now you have a stripe, striping at the intersection, as well as you can make a left turn into the shopping center on the westbound. So we were recommending to close the opening to make it right in, right out, so that you can bring the 3rd left turn and drop it as a left turn further west. That's shown in the insert A and insert B. So that takes care of the issue at the Peachland. For the Kings Highway, you can see the lane markings in the below. We need to have 3 southbound left, 1 southbound through, and 1 southbound right there. So that's based upon our analysis, we feel that this will make sure that you will have acceptable loader service through 2045. In addition to the intersection improvements, we also are recommending pedestrian bicycle improvements, including constructing sidewalk through a stretch between Harbor Boulevard and Loveland Boulevard, and also upgrading the paved shoulder through various sections of the corridor. As Vitor mentioned, as part of the LRTP, there is plans to improve increase the service for a 2-mile radius around Port Charlotte Town Center. So we are also recommending a lighting justification study. The reason is several intersections we have only lighting at 2 approaches. So we want to make sure a lighting justification study is conducted to itemize what is needed at each study intersection as well as through the corridor. As Vitor mentioned, one of the important items we also want to bring is similar to State Road 776, is make this corridor, connected vehicle ready in the long term, as well as I mentioned, we are going to be recommending traffic control, including traffic signal at Orlando Boulevard as well as Harbor Boulevard. We want to make sure that we have the fiber optic cable running all the way from US 41 to Kings Highway through these new traffic signals. That's one of our recommendations. The next step is, based upon today's presentation, we are open to any feedback from you all. Based upon that, we will be developing the final recommendations, including the final priority. We were able to come up with some preliminary ranking of the improvements. And based upon what we hear from you, we will come back in October to make the final presentation and complete the report by October.
Thank you. Really great report, great work. Commissioner DeSeo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, there is a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
You've got some low-hanging fruit there, and then it gets a little bit more complicated and costly. I do have a copy of the priority ranking. I think it was an initial. I don't know if everybody got a copy. It's essentially ranking from 1 to 11, which intersection should be handled first, right to the end. And I appreciate FDOT adding Norman to the study. That was important there. This is on Charlotte County's dime for the improvements, but you did the study. This is something we're going to have to take back to the board, and I don't think it'll be done in one session or one workshop. We're going to have to get it on the agenda and look at each individual intersection, have staff come up with projected costs so we can figure out how we're going to tackle this. We'll prioritize. I appreciate the rankings we have here. I think our board needs to look at that. We rank it the way we feel it needs to be ranked, plug in the numbers, and see what we need to do, what the next steps going forward are. But this gives us a great base to work off of with this information. You know, the exclusive right turn lanes are very important when you look at the speed of traffic down Veterans, to give people the ability to safely decelerate out of traffic to make their right turn, as opposed to hitting the brakes and causing all those rear-end collisions. We've had a lot of rear-end collisions. We've had accidents in the median, which you identified in the report. You know, therefore, your recommendation for at least 2 of these to have signalization. I knew that was coming. I've talked to Public Works about it for probably 2 years. I'm not shocked at this information. We were averaging, I believe, 4.1 accidents a week at any one of these, when you combine them all, for this segment. You know, that's a lot of accidents. And your study shows that by these improvements. So, you know, my recommendation is going to be, you know, we get this on a workshop agenda for our board, and we go one by one, kind of like we did the impact fees. You know, we went one category at a time. Maybe in this, we just really look at what these improvements are with the price tag for each one, and come up with a program. So, and thank you for the report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I think, Commissioner, I would, once we have that date set, coordinate with our friends here to make sure they can be at that meeting too, because they, you know, having done the work, we really want them there to be able to answer the questions and give their input, because we will uncover things or have you know, interrogatories where we really need them in the room. So we'll try to coordinate that with you to make sure you're available, because you know, it's invaluable to have you present when we do that.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you for that. And also, you know, we're talking about the additional interchange. This corridor is more important now than ever, you know, that we get it right. There's only going to be more traffic on this segment of road. It's a main artery for our friends out in West County, you know, to get east, get on the interstate, evacuation, so on and so forth. So I can't, you know, express how important it is to really tackle this and get it in a program somewhere. Then we can do our planning like we always do for funding. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting when he was talking about the portion at Veterans and Kings Highway, and when his comment was, when this becomes more of an issue, it's already there. It couldn't be more of an issue, so.
Hey, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Mr. Harris.
Yes, and the preliminary priority rankings that you were mentioning, those were included in your briefing materials that I provided to you guys earlier this week, so.
Yes, sir. Yep, I got it. Yes, sir. Commissioner Hurst.
Thank you, Mr.
No, they don't. You got to just tell me. You just got to wave. Okay, you're next.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
These are not working at all.
This is for the information of the county commissioners. The Sand Hill DRI, the Loveland Veterans intersection, was a requirement that that intersection be signalized. And it was a requirement of the traffic element of that DRI, and it also, that DRI allowed the pipelining of funds from impact fees within Sand Hill to make those improvements. You may or may not know that, but it's old stuff.
Thank you. Commissioner Deutsch.
What do you have west of the sports park for us to look at?
This study did not look at that was part of the State Road 776 study.
I thought we were doing the whole corridor.
This one was only from US 41 to Kings Highway. This is Veterans Boulevard.
Okay, well, as long as we're talking about it, and LK, we talked about it briefly. I met with some of the businesses down just before the crossover of the bridge, and they're concerned about the proposed elimination of that turn. I don't know, maybe these guys could address it and get back to us, and we could benefit from their expertise.
Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So, Commissioner, originally, the original study that we did was for State Road 776. The original study that we did was for State Road 776, which included the intersection that you were talking about. It's adjacent to the sports park intersection. This study was an extension to that particular study because the county, the MPO board asked us to look at veterans also, because it becomes a county facility east of US 41. So we did look at that intersection, and recommendations were made as part of that particular study, so, but we can provide you those details.
You know, I'm talking about the area from the fire station to the bridge. And the restaurant there is concerned that eliminating that turn, and I talked to you about maybe a mini roundabout or something else going in there. You don't think there's enough space, but they're concerned about that they're going to eliminate the name of the street that begins with an S. You know the one I mean.
I now remember what you're talking about, yes.
Could we take another look at it or talk to some of the people down there?
Definitely can, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so we're on for adding this. We will talk to our board, but we've got 3 here, and I'm sure we're going to do that, so we'll let you know those dates. And other than that, we'll move on to item number 16, Safe Streets and Roads for All.
The only thing we would like to add is, based upon what we heard from your input, we are continuing to work on the draft report so that we can submit it in October.
Okay, well, thank you. Yes, absolutely, this is draft. But we can still start working on it. Actually, it's better for us to have these discussions in a workshop before your final report, because I think it's going to help us get to a better place. Thank you for that. Yes, sir.
Mr. Harris.
Yes, sir.
I know you provided information for the Veterans Boulevard Corridor study. We have it. Does that get forwarded to the other 2 commissioners? Can you do that if you haven't already?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to make sure they have the information, so if it comes up at commissioner comments at our next meeting,
Right.
they'll have the information.
Yes, I'll forward it to them, and I'll also post it to our website. So.
Thanks, sir.
All right, no problem. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is DeJuan Harris. I'm the director of the Charlotte County Punta Gorda MPO. I'm very happy to give you guys a brief overview of the Safe Streets and Roads for All federal discretionary grant program that was created out of the bipartisan infrastructure law. That worked, Lex. I got a little battery life. So this is going to be a very concise, high-level overview. So the eligible applicants for the Safe Streets and Roads for All federal discretionary grant are, of course, MPOs. This is the USDOT's fancy definition of non-state entities. So towns, cities, county government are eligible recipients, and also federally recognized tribal governments. Eligible activities that you can utilize the federal funding for, you can develop a comprehensive safety action plan, fund engineering and design, and also carry out construction projects. However, the USDOT, they're requiring a prerequisite that every jurisdiction first have in place a comprehensive safety action plan. So that is what the MPO is going to move forward with, applying for federal funding to develop a comprehensive safety action plan for Charlotte County. So overview for funding. This bill appropriates $5 billion over the next 5 years from FY22 to FY26. It's quite a bit of funding. There's a 20% local match that's required. We've had initial conversations with Hector and county administration, and the county has agreed to provide that local match, that local cash match. Thank you, county. And I will also be presenting at the Board of County Commission meeting next week to finalize that partnership. This shows you that no more than 15% of funds can be awarded to a project in a single state in a given fiscal year. So it's not as competitive as grants in the past, but this is a very good opportunity for federal funding. So this is the USDOT's very technical, very detailed definition of a comprehensive safety action plan. Essentially, the comprehensive safety action plan can be thought of as a Vision Zero or Target Zero plan, which the ultimate goal is to eliminate or minimize fatalities and serious injuries on local roadways and streets. And where we are now, I'm looking for stakeholders and partnering opportunities for the grant, gathering data for the action plan grant application. I've got until August 15th to get any technical questions answered. The deadline to submit the grant application for the action plan grant is September 15th. Anticipating the notice of award in fall, winter of this year. I anticipate it will take at least a year to develop the comprehensive safety action plan for the county. And once the action plan is adopted, local jurisdictions are free to apply for implementation dollars. The implementation dollars, the opportunity is quite significant. The minimal ask is $5 million, and the maximum ask for implementation grant is $50 million. So it's quite an opportunity for Charlotte County. And with that, I'm looking for a resolution from the MPO board to support my application effort for the action plan grant, and also a letter of support from the MPO.
Chair.
Commissioner DeSalle.
Move Resolution 2022-05 for signature by the MPO Chair and authorize MPO Director to forward the Safe Streets for all grant applications to United States Department of Transportation for consideration of funding to implement a Charlotte County Punta Gorda Comprehensive Safety Action Plan.
Second. Motion, second. Any discussion? Great presentation. Any opposition to the motion? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. You have it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 17, which is public comments on any item. Anybody wishing to address the MPO, this is your opportunity. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Barry Bindi. I live along Jones Loop Road. I'm very much affected by what is going on now and what will be going on further. The airport has done a lot of good things, but for those of us that live along the Jones Loop Road, it's not very positive. Hundreds of cars in, hundreds of cars out through that intersection. Stop signs, no one stops at the stop sign. No one stops at the white line, okay? They can park a police car there, and it's just, until they start pinching the hundreds of people that break the law, nothing's going to happen. Now you go to a roundabout, and that would be a meat grinder. Hundreds of cars in, and I'm talking about hundreds of cars within 10 to 15 minutes because they're there to get to a flight, and then they're there, to leave. So now we've got hundreds of cars dancing, and you've got the tractor trailers that we're not even adding into it, plus the god-awful dump trucks. You've already mentioned that. I can't tell you how many dump trucks are roaring on Piper Road. One thing that could one thing that could help, we had several airport people at our community about 2 months ago, and I raised the issue, signage will help. They have an electronic machine as you leave the airport. Ironically, it says arrive 2 hours early, okay? We could reprogram that and have an arrow to the right and say north 75 to the right. You could be taking some of that pressure off of that interchange, because if they all come down Piper and then swing on to north and swing on to south. Also, maybe we could help the stop sign right up the street on West Henry. For like 3 years now, we've had 2 stop signs with solar-powered red flashing lights. I was told by a deputy that that's only supposed to be there for 6 months when a new intersection occurs. It's been there for years. Why can't we just move that down to the intersection of Jones Loop and Piper? Maybe some of the people will see those lights and maybe they'll do what they're supposed to do, okay? Also, too, evacuation improvements. We have no bike lanes. We have no sidewalks because and if the plans are correct, I'm sorry, I've seen people carrying luggage
Thank you.
down the road on the grass. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody wishing to speak to the MPO on any subject?
Once again, thank you, and kudos to the board. You had quite an agenda. I don't know if that's normal. This is my first time, but you're kind of busy. I think I was growing back there in that chair. What I'd like to do is ask a kind of a favor, I guess, or something for consideration. In retrospect to just what the gentleman before me said, maybe an additional sidewalk going down Jones Loop Road from Piper Road further up, going west. I believe it's west. If you can, that would help out because you've got a camping center over there where a lot of people now are starting to be year-round, and you've got some other developments down there, and there's going to be more homes put up. So maybe down, to that Ventura Lakes or possibly to the cemetery. A sidewalk on that side might be helpful to some people too. It might relieve some of the issues. But most of all, good job. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak? And I see no one else rising, so we will move on to staff comments. Mr. Harris?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the joint Northport Board of County Commission meeting held last Thursday, but I did listen in to CCTV, and I did, my ears did perk up when I heard the potential of 2 roundabouts in the area of Hillsborough, Raintree, Veterans, and Harbor to make those local connections that FDOT is looking for to divert traffic off of Kings Highway and send it up to the potential new interchange at Raintree and also maybe connecting to Yorkshire. The one thing I'm hearing at the lower level, I know that meeting was a higher level, but at the lower level, I'm hearing like a misconception for roundabouts and traffic circles. There are distinct design differences between a roundabout and a traffic circle. Modern roundabout is it has deflection, is designed to slow traffic down. Accidents are less severe. You're less chance of a fatality at a modern roundabout. Traffic circles, you don't have that deflection, more of a chance for T-bone accidents. So I'm hoping to maybe at some point bring in a subject matter expert from FDOT to maybe give more educational information on the difference between roundabouts and traffic circles. And with that, I'll move into my director's report. Apologies for the first typo on the director's report. I did attend the American Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations. There was a regional meeting in Fort Lauderdale. It's not typically a meeting in our backyard. Usually these meetings are all over the country, so that was a great opportunity to hobnob and rub shoulders with other MPOs. The talk on the table of all the MPOs it was the Safe Streets for All grant. Most MPOs do not have a action plan in place, so most MPOs will be going for that action plan grant funding. So that's good to know that we're right on board with all the other MPOs in the nation. Secondly, I did meet with the Burnt Store Homeowners Coalition. Commissioner Constance and I did meet with the sheriff and discussed a lot of the transportation issues along Burnt Store. We actually reached out to the Burnt Store HOA Coalition for a letter of support for our Safe Streets for All grant application effort, and they did agree. So that'll be about 8-9 different letters of support from Burnt Store Road Coalition. And lastly, I want to talk about, let's see. Give me 1 second here. I presented at the City of Punta Gorda the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant application effort, and they have agreed to provide a letter of support. And I'm going to be making that same presentation at the Charlotte County Board of County Commission meeting next Tuesday. And with that, I'll take any questions or any comments for the MPO staff.
I was looking ahead at our schedule, so do we have a joint meeting with Sarasota Manatee on December 15th, is that correct?
No, that meeting will be Sarasota Manatee is January 23rd.
Okay, because it's not...
2023. And that draft schedule has not, we're still finalizing that and coordinating with Dave Hutchison of the Sarasota Manatee MPO. And we also plan to have a joint technical advisory committee meeting before that joint MPO board meeting. We're hoping to have the interchange, FDOT interchange team to present the final report from the proposed interchange study at that meeting as well.
All right, so the tentative date is 1/23/23.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. All right, if there's no questions, we'll move on to member comments. Commissioner Deutsch?
I'll leave all my signification issues off. I'm just going to mention two issues that are big ones that I've been mentioning, one of them for over a year and the other one for getting close to a year. You know, one of the things we pride ourselves in is that we look ahead, we look down the road. Major transportation projects take 20 to 25 years. We've got to start taking a look now at what to do about 776. When there's a problem at 776, it's an hour and a half to get from the sports park to Rotunda or Gulf Cove or South Gulf Cove. Because the only other way to get across is to go down, to go up 41 to River Road. You know, our MPO can take credit for nudging Sarasota to finally do River Road. River Road must, Mr. Secretary, must be widened to Winchester like as soon as possible. It's in terrible shape, and that's the only other possibility to have. So I don't know, I'm not a traffic engineer. Would it be a tunnel? Would it be a bridge? Would it be widening or trying to do something with the existing bridge? But if we want to see that change take place 20 years from now, we've got to start talking about it now, as well you know, and moving on it. I'll put that out there. The second one, and I know the mayor likes to hear this, is the traffic coming over 41 into Punta Gorda. Punta Gorda has its own special charm. It's a great, unique place. We all go to love there, go to visit there and to enjoy ourselves there. And the problem is the city survives with two main roads going through. It's not one road in the center, it's two. And there's no way the city's gonna come in and start getting rid of those buildings in the middle of Punta Gorda. And I've said this, and I'm going to say it again. I won't repeat it after today. Well, the story I won't repeat, but I'll be mentioning this till it happens. It was at the end of the snowbird season. I was coming across the bridge about 5 o'clock. Traffic got stopped halfway through the parking lot at Hurricane Charlie's. And I was heading out toward the aisles for a dinner meeting. The light changed, and there were a couple of cars in front of me. I said, I won't go behind the museum, I'll go straight. Well, I made it across and it stopped again. I had to wait for another light after that to make the right turn onto Marion. So for Punta Gorda, and again, I'm not the traffic engineer, I am not the expert, I'm just sharing this because we all have to look at it. Either there's gonna have to be some kind of bypass as you get off the bridge into Punta Gorda. Maybe it can go through the other side of the event center, or through the event center parking lot. Either that's gonna, or maybe it can go down toward the right-hand side. But we've got to remove that traffic because it's only gonna get worse. And I don't think in another 3 or 4 years, during the middle of the winter, we want to see traffic backing up onto the bridge. But we're gonna, because it has no place to go. So either we have to, and again, if we started working on it next week, you're looking at 20, 25 years for it to happen. We've got to look at another way to get across the Peace River. Maybe it'll be halfway between where we are here and the interstate, you know, or maybe, you know, halfway between 41, the interstate, or we're going to have to come up with a bypass. But those are the types and kind of things that we pride ourselves in that we've got to do. Some of us in this room probably would have an opportunity to drive on it. I'm sure if it happens, I won't be driving on it, you know, but the reality is, if we're going to do our job and do things right, we've got to do that. And right now, I'm turning to my colleagues here. Give it some thought. Let's give it some support, and let's start nudging it along, because it's going to take a long time for it to be happening. Thank you. Appreciate your patience.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hurston.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, we look at a lot of planning studies, and just, I think, if just one study, if I could hear a little bit about economic impact. I mean, it may be buried in what the DOT looks at and stuff like that, but I never hear any financial consequences of what we're doing. Take, for instance, I bet you 10 to 1, if anybody wants to take me up on this bet, that Charlotte County has more stormwater management per road mile than I bet any county in the state of Florida. Take, for instance, Kings Highway. All that stormwater management could have been diverted around Kings Highway, but instead we incorporated that into our stormwater management system. And so now we have those beautiful stormwater management systems on both sides of Kings Highway. And I would bet you that those it aggravates me every time I drive up the road, that the stormwater management systems are going to cost us $1 billion over the next 20 years. And we're always complaining we don't have enough money. And I think we need to think about the financial impacts of what we do. I just never hear it in any of it's just never included in the bullet points, and I think it should be considered. But
You bring up great points, Commissioner, because the micro drilling we had to do under 41 for all the stuff we had to do to mitigate for Midway, all the box culverts, everything, $500,000 a piece. You're right, we've spent an enormous amount of money. But it rains here, you know. I mean, we've got to be able to, you know, we've got to play by the rules. So I don't know what the workaround is. I mean, you know, to keep the roads dry, you've got to be able to deal with the drainage.
Well, in the Kings Highway situation, all that inflow from adjoining neighborhoods could have been diverted around the Kings Highway stormwater management systems. It didn't have to be incorporated into the design and the sizing of that system. So, I mean.
But let me ask you this question, and I don't know the answer. Did it not help did it not help being able to divert all that water to that main system? Now it's relieved some of the other drainage, or you don't believe so?
In my opinion, no.
No.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, that's my opinion. But I think I'd just like to see that, you know, some you could put it at the end of the report, just a small component, you know, the financial impacts. But so anyways, I'm sure our secretary, they probably look at that all the time. I'm sure. But thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Matthews.
Nothing further.
Thank you. Commissioner DeSalle.
Yeah, I had nothing until Jim talked about the drainage. But real quick, my understanding of that design is there were options to go off-site and have a drainage pond somewhere, but that's a direct result of swift mud and requirements for treatment of the water and the runoff.
If I could, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
I was with Charlotte Engineering and Surveying at the time. I was young engineer intern, and the Kings Highway Road project was up for bid. We didn't get the job. They awarded it to a Fort Myers firm. That Fort Myers firm went bankrupt, and Charlotte County had to finish the job. Jim Bird, the county engineer at the time, he was so proud of that design. And I mean, sure, swift mud will allow you to do anything. So if you propose to them that you're going to take in 400 extra acres of stormwater or area into your stormwater ponds, they'll let you. They don't care.
Well, it was Veterans Boulevard. There was a budget. That road was designed around the budget, and that's why we have the issues we have today. You know, there wasn't money to do the big median because of right-of-way acquisition, so you had narrow median cuts where you can't really fit a car. Anyway, that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
We should have had less stormwater management area, so we had more road area for turn lanes.
But there are financial impact statements that are typically performed. I know as a board, when we pass things, you can get a financial impact statement, and I'm sure FDOT goes through a process of cost analysis and engineering when they give you different ways to design. I forgot what it's called now, but it's part of the process, I believe.
Project development.
There you go, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I just want to thank everybody for participating. I know it's a late hour. Mr. Harris, thank you very much. Legal, thank you, Stacy. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much. Do you have any last-minute comments?
No, Mr. Chair, I'm good. Thank you.
He's usually talked out by the end of the meeting. I always offer, but and FDOT staff, thank you so much for everything you do. With that, our next meeting is October 17th in this room at 2 p.m. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.